Drinking black tea calmly at Hogwarts. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376 started planting peas. Just when Zhang Su was trying to think about what he had done recently, Professor Sprout finally said what she asked Zhang Su to ask for his help today. Dumbledore told me that the plants in greenhouse number 51 can be taken out for planting, Professor Sprout said. When Zhang Su heard about it, he was immediately shocked. It was time for the characteristic plants such as peas, corn, and watermelons that had been specially cultivated in greenhouse number 51 in the past few years to come out of the greenhouse. Looking at the floor plan of Hogwarts in the office, Zhang Su knew that this time he was called by Professor Sprout to discuss how to plant these characteristic plants. After the bombing that day, Dumbledore seldom appeared in Hogwarts. Now Professor McGonagall was basically handling all the affairs in the school, and Dumbledore only sent back some instructions occasionally. Zhang Su also received some instructions. From these instructions, it can be seen that what Loudang is most worried about now is that the Death Eaters will sneak into Hogwarts to cause trouble, so he recently asked Zhang Su to strengthen the defense measures in the secret passage. Zhang Zufang then planted almost all kinds of mushrooms from greenhouse number 51 in the secret tunnel. But now it is a larger systematic project to plant characteristic plants such as peas, potatoes and peppers around the castle. Zhang Su and Professor Sprout discussed for an afternoon, and then discussed the planting area, planting manpower, and daily management issues to come up with a big framework. With this big framework, the rest of the details can be done by trusted students, so Zhang Su nominated Neville Longbottom to take charge of this matter without hesitation. After leaving the most tedious tasks to Neville, Zhang Su left Professor Sprout's office. Not long after Zhang Su left the office, he saw Filch walking towards two dejected students who should be second graders. In the past few years, Filch has been very satisfied. He is no longer helpless against the prank students because he does not know magic, so he will not be too harsh on the students in order to vent the pressure because of too much pressure. There was also a rumor that he was going to have a drink with Mrs. Pants, the librarian. What's wrong with the two of them, Filch? Zhang Su greeted. They use contraband in the castle, Mr. Zhang. Filch finished, holding up the bag with the Weasley's Wizard Wheezes logo on it. Obviously, what was contained in the bag was not something harmless to humans and animals. Just now I heard from Professor Sprout that she needs someone to help take care of the plants in her office, Zhang Su said to Filch. The eyes of the two captured students were brightened when they heard Zhang Su's words. Professor Sprout was famous for his good temper in Hogwarts. If it fell into the hands of Professor Sprout during confinement, it should be easier, the two students thought at the same time. Zhang Su, who saw their two thoughts, smiled and said nothing. Many things need to be experienced by young people before they know the truth. Filch's eyes also brightened. He knew the power of the plants in Professor Sprout's office. Those plants were kept in the office because of danger. Just when Zhang Su was about to bid farewell to Filch and the others, Filch suddenly remembered something, so he said to Zhang Su, "Mr. Zhang, Professor Slytherin is looking for you." Zhang Su was not surprised that Slytherin wanted to find him. It would be strange if he didn't come to find him. Sure enough, on Zhang Su's way to the cafeteria for dinner, he met Professor Slytherin at the corner of the corridor. It was an accidental encounter after all. If the two parties want to meet, they can just come to the door directly, and there is no need to block each other on the road. Good evening, Mr. Zhang. The chubby Slytherin greeted Zhang Su with a smile on his face. Good evening, nice to meet you, Professor. Zhang Su replied. Maybe it was because he had learned about Zhang Su's speaking habits from others in advance, or maybe it was because the contacts he was proud of were useless in front of Zhang Su. Inside his very familiar Zhang Su's eyes widened. He looked at Slytherin in feigned surprise and said, "If I say yes, will you deduct my points?" Slytherin was amused by Zhang Su's exaggerated and funny expression. His bulging body trembled amid the laughter, looking like a ball bouncing on the ground. Slytherin laughed for a long time before he stopped, and then he said, "I want to find a magical and rare plant in the Forbidden Forest. If you have news of them, I will be happy to give you some small gifts. Come to exchange with you." "What kind of plant is it?" Zhang Su asked curiously. "Did you ever meet native sheep in the Forbidden Forest?" Slytherin asked. Native sheep, also known as plant sheep, looks like one or several goats climbing on a big tree, But in fact the goats are the fruit of that tree. When the sheep fruit on the tree is ripe, it will jump off the tree by itself, and then walk slowly to the distance. When sheep are captured and taken away by predators, the seeds inside their bodies take root and germinate there. Such native sheep once spread across Eurasia, but as human numbers increased, it became increasingly rare. Because human beings will cook and eat sheep fruit after catching it, so that the seeds in its body will be cooked, making it unable to reproduce. So now native sheep can only be found occasionally in inaccessible places. When Zhang Su saw this magical plant in the library collection, he found that almost all recent sightings happened in Wales, perhaps because the sheep there are not just used for food. Knowing what Slytherin was looking for, Zhang Su frowned, and he replied, "There have been no native sheep in the Forbidden Forest near Hogwarts for many years, because in recent decades 8-eyed spiders are flooding here, and the fruits are eaten by those 8-eyed spiders before they are ripe." Now Slytherin also frowned, and then he asked unwillingly, "So there is no news recently?" Zhang Su thought for a while and said, "If I have a chance, I can ask my horse friends. They often move in the deepest part of the Forbidden Forest. Maybe there will be news. At present, there is only such a way." Slytherin can only wait for Zhang Su to bring back news from the Forbidden Forest. Just as he was about to walk to the cafeteria, Slytherin said to Zhang Su, "I'm going to hold a small weekend party in Hogwarts. I don't know if Mr. Zhang is free to come." Zhang Su complained in his heart that Lao Deng actually agreed with him to bring outsiders to Hogwarts Castle at this time, then pointed to his head and replied, "You know that my body has not fully recovered. If the body is allowed, I will definitely go back to participate." Zhang Su has nothing against such gatherings. Knowing people from all walks of life has gained a lot of knowledge, which can be used as a good way to rest after studying. However, in order to prevent Slytherin from treating himself as a signature dish, Zhang Su still didn't say enough, and found a good excuse for himself to refuse when necessary. Chapter 377 Gossip Between Girls. The hogsmeade that the students above the 3rd grade of Hogwarts were looking forward to was considerate, and the students rushed to Hogsmeade with friends and friends. Because of the severe security situation a while ago, Hogsmeade Week in September was cancelled. It was not until mid-October that the Ministry of Magic strengthened Hogsmeade's security work, and Professor McGonagall approved this month's Hogsmeade Week. Dejo. The weather today is very bad. The cold air suddenly hit last night, the temperature dropped sharply, and there was sleet all night in the morning. The sleet had stopped, but the wind was bitterly cold. Zhang Su and Zhang Chu walked towards Hogsmeade in the cold wind. Under the effect of magic, today's cold wind did not bring them any trouble. Until today, Zhang Su had no time to inspect his new house in Hogsmeade after the house that was burned down was rebuilt during the summer vacation. It was originally said that the inspection and acceptance would be done shortly after the start of school, but it was postponed to today due to various reasons. Zhang Su has already decided that after he graduates from Hogwarts and returns to China, Zhang Chu will take care of the house at that time. Whether she rents it out or lives by herself is up to her. On the way, Zhang Chu and Zhang Su talked about various gossip news among girls. "Ginny has been under a lot of pressure recently," Zhang Chu said. "I heard that many girls are interested in Harry, and they have started to use the love potion. Harry's conditions are indeed worthy of the poaching." Zhang Su touched his chin with his right hand and said, thinking, "Young and rich, with a bright future, it is an excellent potential stock. That's why many girls have prepared love potions for him." Zhang Chu said. "There are so many love potions now?" Zhang Su asked curiously. Zhang Chu replied, "It's not because of the store opened by the Weasley twins. Girls can buy love potions from them disguised as other things. Why are you so proficient? How many bottles have you bought with them?" Degrees after Zhang Zuoshi was punched a few times, he heard footsteps approaching from behind. Looking back, Zhang Su saw a little girl with a red head walking over. The two of them were discussing Ginny just now, but now Ginny appeared. "Hello, Ginny." Zhang Su greeted. "Who made you angry?" "It's two idiots," Ginny said angrily. "Can I trouble you for a favor today? I want to ask you to help make 2 howler letters." Zhang Su calculated today's schedule and found that he really didn't have time, so he sold his aunt to Ginny. Ginny and Zhang Chu made an appointment to meet at a time and place before leaving. "It seems that the situation is quite serious," Zhang Su said gloatingly. "Ginny's shouting letter is probably useless, and those 2 guys won't shrink back because of this." Then he sighed a little disappointed. "Why didn't anyone give me a love potion?" "Because everyone knows that you like girls who are older than you." Zhang Chu said bluntly. Now there are only girls in the 7th grade who are older than you in Hogwarts, but they don't think they will have a chance. The truth came so suddenly that Zhang Su didn't know how to answer for a while. He can't let him find a first-year girl and declare himself a lolican. And Zhang Chu continued, everyone thinks that between you and Luna, you raised Luna as a daughter. Zhang Su almost tripped over his own feet and fell to the ground. You are not often when Luna was confused, give her a brainstorm. Everyone thought it was the father trying to wake up the confused daughter. After Zhang Chu finished speaking, he walked 2 steps before realizing that Zhang Su hadn't followed. Turning around, he found Zhang Su standing there dumbfounded, as if under a petrification spell. After a while, Zhang Su came back to his senses. You girls' brain power is really amazing. Zhang Su sighed, do you have any gossip about me? Zhang Chu thought for a while and said, it's really quite a lot. Zhang Su was speechless at the moment, and he said after a long while, I don't think I seduced girls in Hogwarts, why would there be gossip about me? I didn't say that your gossip was about girls, Zhang Chu said with an exaggerated expression, there are almost no girls who have sex with you. Zhang Su covered his face and was speechless. He heard another meaning in Zhang Chu's words. The question about gossip about girls must stop here, and the topic must be changed next. How about the selection of new players for the Quidditch team? Zhang Su asked curiously. It's okay. Zhang Chu replied. In the following time, Zhang Chu fully analyzed the technical characteristics of the newly promoted players, as well as the candidates for next year's captain. The two walked and chatted like this until they came to Zhang Su's house. At this time, the owner of the builder was already waiting for the arrival of the two of them at the door of the new house. There is nothing to say about the craftsmanship of the builder who built the house. Zhang Su spent half an hour walking around the house, and basically he couldn't pick out any thorns. After signing the delivery and paying the final payment in the living room, nothing happened. Next, Zhang Chu went to find Ginny to help her make a roaring letter, and Zhang Su went to play with ginger and fish cakes. Today in Hogsmeade Village, many Aurors can be seen patrolling. These Aurors are in teams of 3 or 4, and they are constantly wandering around the commercial street and nearby residential areas. Judging from the reactions of the shop owners, the Aurors patrolling here gave them a lot of peace of mind. Zhang Su wandered around the village and walked towards the coffee shop, while saying hello to the Aurors he knew. Perhaps because of the cold weather, the business in the coffee shop was good today, with students and Aurors occupying all the tables. Our Order of Merlin first-class medalist is here. As soon as Zhang Su walked in, he met Rodney who had just delivered drinks. Before Zhang Su could speak, Rodney walked up to him and whispered to him, I know you will come today, so there's a guest waiting for you in the living room on the 2nd floor. Who is it? Zhang Su asked curiously. Rodney said succinctly, big man. After Zhang Su greeted the beauties, he went straight up to the 2nd floor and came to the living room to see which big shot was waiting for him today. Walking into the living room, Zhang Su saw an ordinary man in a neat suit with graying hair sitting there. Zhang Su could tell from the other party's temperament at first glance that the big man in front of him was not a soldier, not an intelligence officer, but an old-fashioned politician. After Zhang Su walked into the living room, the other party noticed Zhang Su's arrival. After Zhang Su introduced himself, the other party introduced himself. Nice to meet you, Mr. Zhang. I'm Bernard Woolley. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 378 Malfoy on the verge of arrest. Ever since he got online with the British government, Zhang Su has obtained partial access to relevant intelligence of senior British government officials. Bernard Woolley, British Prime Minister Jim Harker's personal secretary, was a bit of a stubborn man, and he couldn't tolerate grammatical errors from those he was talking to. In addition, he will tell some bad jokes and spoil the atmosphere. Zhang Su couldn't help but get nervous because such a big shot was waiting for him here. But his arrival should be Jim Harker's private decision, not the decision of the British Prime Minister, otherwise it should be the Cabinet Secretary Sir Humphrey Appleby. Due to the huge difference in status and age between the two parties, Zhang Su was unable to see the cold humor of the other party. Instead, he experienced his strict requirements on grammar and tone. Zhang Su thought that Bernard Woolley came to him for an informal discussion, and exchanged views comprehensively and frankly, and thus proposed a series of plans, which finally led to a variety of feasible research goals, and then proceeded accordingly. Concludes that there are some alternatives, perhaps in some cases, prudent additions to the established course, in order to achieve common ground while reserving differences, to find a way for both parties to compromise and cooperate. If both parties can carry it out, at the same time, appropriate concessions should be made. If the situation permits, possible conditions may eventually be created. No matter whether the process is correct or not, a solution satisfactory to both parties can be reached. But Zhang Su thought about it carefully. In diplomacy, reciprocal communication is the most important thing. Why should I make a deal with such a deep-sea monster as a small shrimp? Sure enough, Bernard Woolley took today's meeting as a casual chat as soon as he opened his mouth, but the main content of the chat was the trends in the magic world in recent years. After Bernard Woolley's first few language hints, Zhang Su figured it out. This is the Prime Minister's desire to grasp the latest trends in the current magic world from a different channel, and to learn about the historical context of some things. By the way, I just don't know who pulled me out. But such a thing is a rare good thing. Zhang Su naturally will not give up this rare opportunity. So today became Zhang Su's story meeting, and he worked hard to tell the story in detail and wonderfully. After about 2.5 hours, today's story will come to an end. Bernard Woolley has something to go back to London. He hopes to invite Zhang Su to drink tea next time, and Zhang Su took the opportunity to send a copy of Dumbledore's biography signed by Old Deng to the Prime Minister in his own name. 2 minutes after Zhang Su walked out of the coffee shop, his cell phone rang. I took out my mobile phone and looked at the caller ID. It was the embassy's work number. It was the ambassador's secretary who called. Zhang Su didn't know the ins and outs of today's matter until after the call. British Prime Minister Jim Harker often invites ambassadors from various countries to dinner because of the chef. Not long ago, he invited the ambassador of our country to have lunch. During the lunch, he vaguely mentioned the affairs of the magic world. At the same time, Jim Harker expressed his routine dissatisfaction with the ambassador for the unauthorized arrest of people from the 3 countries on the ground in the UK. Then the ambassador routinely emphasized that the friendship between the 2 countries has a long history. In the end, Jim Harker complained that his understanding of the magic world in his own country was still very limited, and the ambassador recommended to him the best person who knew the magic world in Britain. Knowing that he was betrayed by the ambassador, Zhang Su just wanted to give the ambassador a thick red envelope because his company will definitely go abroad in the future. If he can catch the line of the current Prime Minister at this time, his future work will undoubtedly be much more convenient. If Lao Deng hadn't been at Hogwarts recently, Zhang Su would have suggested that he invite the Prime Minister and his secretaries to Hogwarts for the Halloween dinner. After the phone call, Zhang Su put away his mobile phone, and then he planned to go to the Three Broomsticks bar for a drink. Just as Zhang Su was walking on Central Street, he suddenly heard screams coming from the direction of returning to Hogwarts. He looked in the direction where the screams came from, and saw a student flying up in the distance, and a few students below were flying tried to drag that student down. Due to various reasons, Dumbledore did not take back the communicator used by the Hogwarts professors in Zhang Su's hands, so Zhang Su immediately sent this situation in the communicator. After putting away the communicator, Zhang Su immediately walked through the alley between the houses, came to the back door of the Three Broomsticks bar, and began to carefully observe the traces of people walking on the ground. Due to the sleet last night and the cold and windy weather today, many places are now covered with hoarfrost. Soon, Zhang Su found a string of fresh footprints at the back door of the Three Broomsticks bar. After casting the disillusionment curse on himself, he followed the footprints. The owner of this series of footprints obviously had no anti-stalking experience, and just walked straight into the depths of Hogsmeade in the empty alley behind the house. In less than a few minutes, Zhang Su blocked the owner of this series of footprints in an empty alley. Malfoy, who was hurrying with his head down, found someone blocking the other end of the alley. He jumped back in fright, and immediately drew out his wand. "I think you are so nervous because you are afraid of being attacked by Death Eaters," Zhang Su said while holding this faced the enemy with his right hand and hitting the palm of his left hand, staring at Malfoy. "I think other Death Eaters, the gangsters, are afraid that you will cause trouble for them." After Zhang Su finished speaking, his eyes fell on Malfoy's left arm. And Malfoy subconsciously covered his left arm with his right hand, like a girl who was stared at. At this moment, a group of 3 patrolling Aurors came nearby and spotted the 2 confronting each other in the alley. "What are you doing?" the lead Auror called after entering the alley. "Hey, you're Zhang. the leading Auror asked after seeing Zhang Su. Long time no see, Thomas. Zhang Su turned around and saw the person coming, and greeted him with a smile. Let Percy be your boss, what do you think? Thomas was very speechless about which pot of Zhang Su he would not open and which pot to carry, because he was 2 grades higher than Percy, and he was the chairman of the male students' union when Zhang Su first entered school. At that time, he was in charge of Percy, who had just become a prefect. Moreover, he and Zhang Su have brushed up the friendship of Qi Luo's dungeon together. At this time, Zhang Su discovered that the other 2 Aurors were also acquaintances, and they had brushed a basilisk dungeon together. The 3 of them soon discovered that the other student with cold sweat on his forehead was Draco Malfoy. Among them, the Auror from the former Slytherin house named Marcus asked, "What are you and Malfoy doing? Did he do something wrong?" Marcus clearly had a friendship with Malfoy, and there was a hint of peacemaker in his tone. They walked from the other side of Hogsmeade, obviously not aware of what happened on the way back to Hogwarts. Otherwise, based on their knowledge of Zhang Su, they would definitely think that Zhang Su was catching the murderer. I was in the 3 Broomsticks bar just now, and I found a figure of a man coming out of the women's bathroom, and then leaving through the back door. Zhang Su nonsense, so I chased that figure to the vicinity, but when I was nearby I accidentally lost him, and then I happened to meet Malfoy here, and I was about to ask him if he saw any suspicious people nearby. Immediately afterwards, the 3 Aurors looked sharply at Malfoy. At this moment, a figure rushed into the alley and said, "Can I ask you a few questions?" When Malfoy saw the woman holding the parchment in one hand and the dark green quill in the other, his pale face suddenly became whiter than snow. "Come here and kill the few people in front of you." And Zhang Su greeted her with a smile. "Ms. Skeeter, congratulations on finally being discharged from the hospital." Chapter 379. One day Snape wants to kill someone. Zhang, it in number 039, S. Not for nothing. Rita Skeeter had guessed the reason behind her 1-month stay in St. Mungo's hospital, so after she was discharged from the hospital, she kept staring at the Ministry of Magic looking for trouble, and today was the day when Hogwarts students came to Hogsmeade for leisure. With a keen sense of smell, she went around the village early in the morning to find big news. The method she used today was to follow a patrol of young Aurors, because young people were prone to mistakes, and mistakes were big news. Rita Skeeter, who was in a state of excitement, now caught a big or small piece of news. If she made this news big, Malfoy's life would be difficult in the future. At this moment, a report came from the Auror's magic walkie-talkie that a Hogwarts student had been attacked, asking the Aurors to immediately rush to the commercial street where the students gathered. The 3 Aurors took the confrontation between Zhang Su and Malfoy as a fight between students, so they didn't take it seriously. Then Rita Skeeter followed the 3 Aurors and left immediately. Malfoy, who was standing in the alley, was relieved and wiped the sweat from his brow. After wiping off his sweat, Malfoy suddenly realized that Zhang Su hadn't left, and was still standing where he was just now, looking at him with a puzzled expression. Just when Malfoy was gripping his wand tightly, Zhang Su said to him, "Why are you so stupid?" Malfoy just wanted to refute, but suddenly found that he didn't know how to refute, because he was not sure what Zhang Su was talking about now, and the explanation might turn into cover-up. Although Zhang Su had prepared for what happened today, the development of the incident still made him feel strange when the incident happened, because he remembered that the pony had a perfect alibi in the story, but today on the way to Hogsmeade, he saw the pony from a long distance away, so after the incident, he ran to the scene to look for clues. As a result, he blocked the pony all at once. Zhang Su didn't think that he had a halo of subduing wisdom, and Voldemort would be able to use cannon fodder, ambushes, and tie trains. It doesn't make sense that Xiaoma's brain has become difficult. Be smarter next time. Zhang Su turned and left after speaking. Regardless of the pony sitting on the ground with his legs weak and sweating, Zhang Su came to the 3 Broomsticks bar to pass the time. As for how to deal with the pony, that is Dumbledore's business. He will not do it for him. After meeting Loudang in front of the girls' bathroom that day, Zhang Su was convinced that Xiaoma's every move was under Loudang's control. Because of the bad weather today, many students returned to Hogwarts early, so there were fewer guests in the bar than usual. Zhang Su chose a table away from Neville, who was complaining to his friends, and called the proprietress to order a glass of sherry. When the proprietress brought the wine, Zhang Su greeted her and said, "You look good today, Ms. Rosmerta." "But business is not good," Ms. Rosmerta complained. "It would be nice if you could come more often." "We also want to come here often, but Professor McGonagall disagrees," Zhang Su said helplessly. But there are so many Aurors in the village, they all come to have a drink after get off work. As soon as Zhang Su mentioned those Aurors, Ms. Rosmerta gritted her teeth in an instant, and she said, they all went to them. Although they and they are the same word in English, Zhang Su clearly recognized who Ms. Rosmerta was talking about, so he stopped talking. Ms. Rosmerta chatted with Zhang Su and left. At this time, Zhang Su could preliminarily conclude that she had no signs of the Imperious Curse. As time went by, there were fewer and fewer customers in the bar, and the whole bar only echoed Neville's voice complaining that he was too busy helping Professor Sprout to farm recently, so he didn't have much time for homework. Fortunately, Neville's complaints were nothing but complaints. He didn't say what he had planted recently, and the audience around him would only think that he was busy in the greenhouse. After drinking, Zhang Su, who hadn't heard any interesting news, guessed that it would be time for dinner when he returned to Hogwarts, so he checked out and left. It is well known that Katie Bell was attacked and unconscious during dinner, because several professors were in Hogsmeade at that time, and the professors rushed out of the village immediately after learning that a student was attacked. This made many students know about it. This incident was widely circulated among the students. Some people said that some Death Eaters sneaked into Hogsmeade and attacked her. Some people said that she picked up a black magic item that someone had deliberately thrown away. A love-hate soap opera. But when the Harry trio who were present at the time came to the cafeteria, everyone knew the real story of the matter. What happened was similar to what happened in the plot, except that there seemed to be discrepancies in some details, but Zhang Su didn't care about it anymore. When Zhang Su finished his meal and returned to the door of his former professor's dormitory, he suddenly had an idea in his mind. For some purpose, he spent a lot of time researching a magic that seems to be used on the gate to surprise potential intruders. Think about it and do it, construct it in your mind. After thinking about this magic, Zhang Su took out this faces the enemy and began to cast spells on the gate. 3. The magic wand is like a pen that can write and paint in the air. It draws a pattern of an animal out of thin air, and then disappears without entering the gate the next moment. At this moment, a cold and emotionless voice sounded from the side. What are you doing, Mr. Zhang? Zhang Su turned his head and saw that Snape had walked nearby at some point, so he replied, it's just a little magic, to leave a mark for those who break into my dormitory without my permission, Professor. It looks like a curse to me, Snape said. Zhang Su couldn't help but admire Snape's professional knowledge. He got to the point right away. He nodded and said, that's right, this magic is developed from curses, but it won't hurt people. I don't remember how to cast a curse at Hogwarts. Snape frowned and said to Zhang Su, don't pay attention to these details. Zhang Su waved his hand and said, as if he was talking about something unimportant, there are many good books in the restricted section. For a good student like Zhang Su, reading books in the restricted area is like finding something out of a bag. Are you interested in trying this little magic, Professor Snape? It won't hurt anyone. Zhang Su then challenged Snape, but I haven't figured out how to break the curse yet. In the past few years, Zhang Su has often used this kind of small game to pass the time with the professors in the faculty lounge, but of course he has never won it once. Snape gave Zhang Su a sideways look, then walked to the gate and put his hands on the gate. A few minutes later, a puzzled expression crept onto Snape's face, because he found several normal access curses on the gate, but he didn't find the curse cast by Zhang Su just now. The next second, Snape, who had put a bunch of shields on himself in advance, pushed open the door of the dormitory with both hands. Snape, who had been on guard for a long time, found that his body had not been harmed or changed. Snape turned his head to look at Zhang Su, and asked suspiciously, this spell doesn't seem to work. Meow. With a click, Professor McGonagall, who was walking over with something unknown from the other side of the corridor, seemed to be greatly frightened, and he didn't even notice that the thing in his hand had dropped. Professor McGonagall stared at Snape with wide eyes and asked, Severus, what are you doing? Snape looked at Zhang Su suspiciously, then at Professor McGonagall, and said strangely, what's wrong with me? Meow. At this time Zhang Su interrupted, what's the matter with the two professors? Snape took out a rolled up parchment from his robe and handed it to Zhang Su, saying, Slughorn and I have researched together, and the potion for treating Katie Bale needs some rare herbs in the Forbidden Forest. Meow. I know you have a good relationship with the centaur in the Forbidden Forest. Meow. So I hope you can help. Meow. After Zhang Su took the parchment, Snape glanced suspiciously at the already petrified Professor McGonagall, then turned and left. With Snape's brains, He could tell from Professor McGonagall's reaction that he had been tricked, but he didn't realize it himself, so he had to go back to the office immediately to study how to get rid of the trap on him magic. "What did you do to him?" Professor McGonagall asked Zhang Su sternly. Zhang Su pointed to the door of the dormitory, and explained to Professor McGonagall the little magic that had just been added to the door. "So Snape failed to break the magic?" Professor McGonagall asked. "This magic should be a curse. The trouble with talking to smart people is that they can easily spot when you're breaking the law. Professor McGonagall can't tolerate any sand, and Snape himself is a master of black magic." In view of the difference between Professor McGonagall and Snape, Zhang Su decided to tell her the general idea of this magic. Zhang Su said, "This magic is just a trigger condition similar to a curse, but its effect on the target is very different from those curses. It will not cause substantial harm to the human body." "Then replace its function with a curse?" Professor McGonagall asked sternly. "Well, in fact, many people know how to replace artificial rainfall rockets and firefighting rockets with warheads. That way Professor Snape will discover it." Zhang Su replied honestly, "The more powerful the spell, the easier it is to be discovered. So the effect of this spell is just to make people out at the end of every sentence, and make me ignore this point. How about you challenge Professor McGonagall?" Professor McGonagall, Chapter 380. The goal of the necklace is. Professor McGonagall did not intend to challenge this little curse. After asking Zhang Su to help pay attention to the safety of the students, she went back to her bedroom with the books borrowed from the library. Hearing the voices of Zhang Su and Snape from the stairs not far away, he came to watch the excitement. After Professor McGonagall left, Zhang Su, who had calmed down, was glad that he had saved his life. After returning to the dormitory and finishing his daily tasks, Zhang Su lay on a deck chair on the balcony, taking a routine look at the movement in the castle with the Marauder's map. After searching for several times but not finding Snape in the castle, Zhang Su remembered that he had heard Dumbledore mention that Snape would sometimes report to Voldemort on weekend nights. If this is the case, report Master Meow. Dumbledore isn't at Hogwarts this week. Meow. Today a student was attacked. Meow. Hopefully Voldemort won't dissect Snape. The next morning, Zhang Su, who got up early, took out the Marauder's map and was relieved when he saw Snape's name appearing in his dormitory. If Snape was broken because of this incident, old Dang would probably tear Zhang Su apart. When it was time for breakfast, Hogwarts students came to the cafeteria in twos and threes, discussing what happened to Katie Bell yesterday while having breakfast, and the senior students at the dining table of a certain college said to the freshmen of the first grade, "I think Professor Flitwick should have told you that the pronunciation of the spell should be standard. This morning, when someone cast the spell, they added 'I got the pronunciation of ow,' and the result is Alice." Seeing the senior brothers shaking their heads sadly there, the freshmen in the first grade shivering, and seeing a pair of cat ears growing on their heads after chanting a wrong spell, it was really terrifying to them. Then a freshman in the first grade curiously asked the senior brother, "So the student who fought with that Professor Sikik this morning, is his magic power so strong?" The senior student showed a look of nostalgia, and said to Mengson, "He is another legend, but unfortunately he was not assigned to our Slytherin house. Let me tell you his story. Back then while the old students in the cafeteria were bragging to the freshmen, Zhang Su in the Forbidden Forest managed to get rid of Snape's pursuit. At this moment, Zhang Su found that he had run not far from Hagrid's house, and then he heard a loud noise not far away. After taking a few steps towards the source of the sound, he found that it was Harry and the three of them. The human group is feeding Thestrals with beef. So Zhang Su walked over to greet them and said, "You three are all busy." Harry's trio were taken aback, and they were relieved when they turned around and found that it was Zhang Su. After all, a complete cow is lying there, and then pieces of meat are roughly torn off from the carcass, and then float up and disappear with the sound of chewing. Such a scene challenges the nerves of people who cannot see Thestrals. After the three of Harry greeted Zhang Su, Harry said to Zhang Su, "Hagrid has gone to take care of his younger brother, so he got rid of us this morning to help take care of Thestrals. Why are you in the Forbidden Forest?" Harry asked Zhang Su. "I will go to the Centaur tribe later, and ask them to help find some rare medicinal materials that can be used to treat Katie Bell. Do you want to go together?" Zhang Su asked. Harry's trio hadn't been to the Centaur's tribe yet, so the three soon unanimously decided to follow Zhang Su to learn more. On the way to the Centaur tribe, Zhang Su directed Harry's trio to collect various fruits and fungi as gifts, and at the same time introduced to them the precautions when communicating with the Centaur. Horse people are very sensitive, even a bit glass-hearted, and they will think that you are deliberately offending them if anything is wrong. When Zhang Su said that he had killed the eight-eyed spider, the horse people thought that Zhang thought they were too weak and looked down on them. The three of Harry were stunned when they heard it. Although they had read similar content in the book said it was too general, and compared with what Zhang Su said, it was a bit less realistic. After Zhang Su finished speaking, the backpacks on the backs of Harry's trio were filled with greeting gifts. Ron weighed the carrying basket on his back, looked at Zhang Su who was holding a basket of fruit in one hand, and asked unwillingly, "Zhang, why do we have to carry so many gifts, and you only need to take a little?" After hearing Ron's words, Harry, who also had a basket full of mushrooms and fruit, and Hermione, who had a large walking mushroom in his basket, couldn't help nodding. "Because I have been friends with them for so many years, and everyone is familiar with them, so I don't need to prepare so many meeting gifts." What Zhang Su said made a lot of sense, and Harry and the others couldn't refute it. Zhang Su continued, "The horse people value the first impression very much, so you can give them a good impression with more greeting gifts." The Harry trio had no choice but to follow Zhang Su to the Centaur tribe with their backpacks on their backs. As for using the floating spell, Zhang Su didn't mention it. The three of them didn't expect it to be their own business. After talking about the centaurs, Harry suddenly changed the topic to what happened to Katie Bell yesterday. Someone gave Katie a gift box in the bathroom of the Three Broomsticks yesterday. Harry told Zhang Su in detail what happened to Katie Bell that day, as well as his own suspicions about Malfoy. "What does the gift box with the opal necklace look like?" Zhang Su asked suddenly. Harry thought for a moment, then took out his wand and transformed a small rock on the ground into the gift box. Zhang Su looked at the box, then turned to Hermione and asked, "Hermione, are you familiar with this style of gift box?" The gift box was actually very ordinary, with bright colors that made it oriented towards young women, and the patterns on it were roses and mistletoe. Generally, girls use this kind of gift box to give gifts to boys they like. Hermione replied. Then Zhang Su turned his head to look at Harry and asked, "If you are the Malfoy whom you suspected, and you prepared such a gift box for that necklace and handed it to a girl, what do you think of this necklace? Whose hand will the necklace end up in? Is there any boy who deserves Malfoy's deed or to kill him?" Harry and the three of them have been thinking about who did this all day long, and they haven't started thinking about who the target is. After some eye contact, Harry's trio unanimously cast their eyes on Zhang Su. Chapter 381 Heading to the Centaur Tribe. Zhang Su's face twitched as he watched Harry's trio look at him. It seemed that they all thought that Malfoy was the one who wanted to kill him. But he thought about it, it seems that it is very reasonable for Xiaoma to kill him, except for the short honeymoon period. The enmity between Zhang and the Malfoy family is not small. Zhang Su did some calculations. Ever since his father took the old horse to plant sugarcane, he couldn't count the things that his family cheated their family openly and secretly. Then Zhang Su waved his hand and said to Harry, "Malfoy is the murderer, all of these are your assumptions, let's talk about it after you find conclusive evidence." Although Harry guessed the murderer correctly in the plot, it was more of a coincidence and Harry planned to be an Auror after graduation. If he went to work with a habit of inferring guilt, sooner or later he would take a pill. Zhang Su's statement was also supported by Ron and Hermione, both of whom thought that Harry was a little out of touch and took it for granted. Not long after this topic ended, the four of them came near the Centaur tribe. The biggest difference between this place and other places in the Forbidden Forest is that there is a solid road under your feet. There were no roads in the Forbidden Forest, but when there were many horses and people walking, it became a road. At this time, there are many traces of horse people's life on the roadside. The hoofprints on the ground are very fresh, which are different from human footprints. Only immature fruits are left on the nearby fruit trees target used. While walking, Zhang Su explained to Harry the trio the story of the life traces of the horsemen along the way. Not long after walking, there was a rustling sound from a large blueberry bush not far away. It was obvious that something was walking towards them through the bushes. "Come. Put away your wands," Zhang Su said to Harry and the others who were just about to pull out their wands in a low and serious voice. "It's the centaur who came. Listen carefully to the unique sound of footsteps." Not long after, the two centaurs passed through the blueberry bushes and appeared in front of Zhang Su and the others. Brother Zhang degree, long time no see you, Brother Zhang." After seeing Zhang Su, the two horsemen ran towards him happily. Cyrillic letter deck, "Oh my eyes, why is it dark? Pi, Jaya Lily, what are you doing, Hermione? Close your eyes, why don't they wear clothes? Dish degree. Seeing Hermione cast a spell on Zhang Su, who was greeting them, the two centaur girls immediately raised the short bow hanging from their waists angrily, and aimed at Hermione after nodding their arrows. The confusion caused by differences in race and ideas took a long time to calm down. Zhang Su first explained to Jair and Lily that Hermione is not an enemy, and asked them to put away their bows and arrows first. Then he turned Harry and Ron to stand with their backs to the two naked centaur girls, unable to look at each other without Hermione's consent. Then Zhang Su told Hermione a lot of things like respecting and understanding the customs of other nations. In the end, Hermione just replied, "You just want to look at them like this." "I'm not, I haven't, don't talk nonsense." Zhang Su shook his head and denied. Zhang Su didn't think he had such great energy for things like changing customs, so he never made irresponsible remarks on the customs of the horsemen. Mr. Zhang hadn't seen anything on the internet before graduating from university in his last life. It's trivial to think about people who are outsiders. In addition, he has gotten along with horse people a lot in the past few years, so he can look at everything calmly. As a result, he forgot Harry and Ron, two underage boys under the age of 17, and seemed unable to cope with such a situation. Finally, after negotiation between Zhang Su and Hermione, it was decided that Hermione would give them both an oblivion curse after they went back, and only then did they reluctantly expose the matter. After going through such a mess, Zhang Su introduced the two centaur sisters to the Harry trio. The last time Zhang Su saw Jair and Lily was last winter. At that time, the two little girls were as tall as Zhang Su when they stood up. Now they are already half a head taller than him. Now Jair and Lily have entered the age of cardamom. In addition to their physical growth, they have also started to engage in some work of collecting fruits near the tribe. Today their task is to go out to pick blueberries, and now the small baskets on their backs are full of freshly picked blueberries. Just now when they were resting, they heard Zhang Su's voice in the distance, so they came here together. After the initial misunderstanding and embarrassment were resolved, the group walked towards the tribe talking and laughing. It's just that it was Hermione who was full of curiosity who talked the most, and he was basically asking questions to the centaur sisters along the way. The two young men, Harry and Ron, blushed and lowered their heads, embarrassed to speak. When the two sisters were watching Harry curiously just now, Harry found in embarrassment that because of his height, when he looked at him, his line of sight was exactly the same as the position where the two sisters had just taken shape. Embarrassed for a moment, Harry didn't know where to look. Soon, Harry, who met an acquaintance, got rid of the embarrassing situation. He quickly recognized the centaur coming from another path. "Long time no see, Firenze," Harry greeted happily. On the night Hagrid took him to the Forbidden Forest to look for unicorns because of confinement in the first grade, Harry met Firenze in the Forbidden Forest. He told him and himself a lot about astrology and prophecy, etc. Horse people who don't understand the words are very fond of them. Firenze also recognized Harry, who had met once, so he waited for Harry and his group to pass by at the intersection ahead. After a while of pleasantries and mutual introductions, Firenze walked and chatted with Harry and Ron, while Hermione was not very interested in Firenze. The arrival of Zhang Su changed the fate of many people, and Firenze was one of them, since Umbridge was driven away early in the morning, and Percy was not interested in doing anything to Trelawney. Firenze did not receive Dumbledore's invitation to teach him at Hogwarts. From the conversation between Firenze and Harry, Zhang Su also learned that he is still living the usual life in the tribe and he is going to get married soon, and the wedding will be on the night of the next full moon. Harry's trio happily accepted the invitation to participate in Firenze's wedding. Zhang Su, who also accepted the invitation, was a little bit emotional. Firenze, who got married and had children in the tribe and started a new chapter in life, should feel better because he went to Hogwarts. Firenze, who was expelled from the tribe for teaching. A group of people came to the Centaur tribe just like that, talking and laughing. Chapter 382. The mission of the Horsemen Village is released. Zhang Su and his party soon came to the Horse tribe. The trio of Harry, who had just arrived in your land, looked around curiously at the buildings of the unique centaurs. Zhang Su, who has been here many times, found that the atmosphere in the tribe was not right, so he quietly gave himself a favorable ear. The weather today is actually quite good, and it is already October, and the winter is getting ready. At this time of the year, the horses are all actively preparing for the winter, such as going out to collect supplies like Jair, Lily, and Firenze, or inspect and repair the house. But today, Not only did they only see Jair and the others outside the tribe, but there were also fewer horsemen outside the houses in the tribe. If you listen carefully, you can hear the sound of beating and grinding coming from many houses. It was a sound he had heard at Jair and Lily's house before, when Madash's parents were making arrowheads. It is not surprising that the horsemen usually make bows and arrows for themselves. The problem is that now more than half of the houses in the tribe are making bows and arrows. There are many reasons behind this. The bows and arrows made by the horsemen are unique, and they can be used as magic-breaking arrows. The iron armor curse with a lower level can basically be ignored. This is the reason why they have not been eliminated or enslaved by wizards so far. Zhang Su walked to Forenza and asked casually, "Why didn't you see everyone repairing the house today?" Forenza glanced at Zhang Su and replied, "Everyone has to prepare a lot of bows and arrows recently." What Forenza said so directly made Zhang Su uncomfortable. Horse people will not lie to their friends, but when they answer some questions that cannot be told to outsiders, they will always use the prophecy advantages, and use astrological predictions to fool the other party so that they don't know what they said. Now Forenza directly told Zhang Su the military information in the tribe, making Zhang Su confused all of a sudden. Zhang Su wanted to ask again, but Forenza shook his head lightly, not wanting to talk about this topic anymore. In this way, Zhang Su could only turn the topic back to the medicinal materials needed for coming here today. Naturally, the medicinal materials needed this time were not something that Forenza could handle. Zhang Su told him this, so he naturally asked him to take his party to call the elders of the horse people. The elders of the horse people can only inherit the position of elders after abandoning their own names, to show the elders' determination to serve the tribe wholeheartedly. And before the centaur elder of this term became an elder, Zhang Su had dealt with him several times, and the relationship between them was not bad, so he readily agreed to Zhang Su's request for Dumbledore's sake, and then asked a horseman who assisted him to look for it in the warehouse according to Zhang Su's list. When the previous centaur elder saw Zhang Su for the last time, he told Zhang Su the story of the Mir space station, but this time, the new elder kept telling Harry and the others about the reappearing new planet at the banquet. After entering the centaur tribe, Harry's trio followed Zhang Su's instructions and listened more than talking nonsense, so as not to accidentally annoy the centaur with language. The centaur elders were very interested in the legendary Harry Potter, so they decided to hold a small banquet to greet Harry and his party. It is said to be a small banquet, but in fact it is just a meal for the elders of the centaur tribe, some staff and friends of the tribe to welcome Harry Potter. The trio of Harry, who came to the centaur tribe for the first time, sat at the dining table and talked with the centaur curiously and cautiously, while Zhang Su found the opportunity. "We'll have a conversation with the elders. Is everything ready for winter in the tribe this year, elder?" Zhang Su asked with concern. "Is the food reserve sufficient?" Elder Marran stared at Zhang Su for a long time, and then said, "We have no difficulty in getting through this winter. But I saw fruit trees near the tribe that should have been picked at this time in the past, and there are still many fruits hanging on the branches." Zhang Su said to the elder seriously, "Did the tribe find new food this year?" Elder Marran had always admired Zhang Su's observation ability, but today he felt a little headache about it. Zhang Su has already noticed that the distribution of labor in the tribe is different from before. It is not easy for the elders to fool Zhang Su in this regard. After all, he has a lot of friends in the tribe, and some things can be easily found out. Moreover, doing some things is the same thing, and there are many articles that can be written for the purpose of doing these things. So after Zhang Su found out about the fact that the horsemen secretly risked insufficient preparations for the winter to organize the army, the elder thought about how to explain this to Dumbledore behind Zhang Su. After all, the Horde is not far from Hogwarts. If Dumbledore thinks that the Centaur are preparing to attack Hogwarts, then they can only cry now. Immediately afterwards, the elder Marran routinely used the excuse of prophecy to expose the matter, and hinted that Zhang Su would talk about it after dinner, and Zhang Su, who got the hint, also changed the topic to other places. After a meal together, Harry, Ron, and Hermione had mastered the art of dealing with centaurs, and they were less nervous when talking to other centaurs than they were at first. In the elder's room, the elder said to Zhang Su and the others after listening to the report from the subordinates who came back from the medicinal material warehouse, "I'm sorry, my friends, we still lack 2 kinds of medicinal materials in our warehouse. The other medicinal materials we are all prepared." Zhang Su, who knew something about the medicinal materials on the list, also understood that the horses did not cheat them. After all, some plants have medicinal value to humans, but to the horses they are no different from weeds. The translation of the words of the elders of the horse people means that we have everything else in our warehouse except those two weeds. At this moment, Harry, who was sitting on the side, suddenly asked, "Then how can we get these medicinal materials?" Ron and Hermione also looked at the elder centaur nervously, for fear that he would put forward some very difficult conditions. The centaur elder was stunned for a moment when he heard Harry's question. Originally, these medicinal materials were just regular supplies for the centaur, and they were not very expensive. Harry was not allowed to ask if Zhang Su meant it. And Zhang Su was also taken aback for a moment. What Harry could have gotten by relying on his face, Harry meant that he was willing to pay for it, but considering that the injured person was an active player of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, it is understandable why Harry is so concerned about this matter. After figuring this out and seeing the doubts of the elders of the horses, Zhang Su simply used voice transmission to enter the secret and said a few words to the elders of the horses. Immediately afterwards, the elders of the centaur began to release the task of the centaur village to Harry. Winter is approaching, and our village must store enough food for the winter. However, the fruit reserves in our village are not enough now. If you can provide us with a large amount of fruit, we can exchange medicinal materials. After receiving the task, Harry's trio happily left after asking some details, while Zhang Su stayed on the grounds that he was looking for two other medicinal materials that the horsemen did not have. Now there are only the elder horseman and Zhang Su left in the room. The elder horseman should tell Zhang Su about what happened in the tribe recently. Chapter 383. As the saying goes, how can you allow others to snore and sleep on the side of the couch? The centaur tribe can camp in the Forbidden Forest close to Hogwarts for so many years without being treated as a threat by the previous leadership of Hogwarts. If there is no deal or covenant between the two parties, then no one would believe it. Therefore, it is perfectly normal for the two sides to communicate with each other on some issues when necessary. It's just that Dumbledore is often not at Hogwarts recently, and it is estimated that the centaur elders can't find anyone if they want to talk to him. So the elder Maren made the next best thing and asked Zhang Su to convey some things to Loudeng. After spending 5 minutes describing the recent planetary movements, the centaur elder said seriously, "To sum up, an unprecedented war will sweep across this land. Dark wizards, wreaking havoc in the Forbidden Forest with blood and flames. Monsters of steel, rampaging in the Forbidden Forest. Fireballs of unprecedented proportions fell from the sky, and the forest was scorched with flames that could not be quenched by rain." After hearing the prophecy of the centaur elder, Zhang Su's hands trembled uncontrollably. Judging from the description of the centaur elders, what is described later is simply the advancement of the mechanized army in the open space. From this point of view, in the prophecy of the horsemen, at a certain time, the Forbidden Forest will be swept away by the British army. In this way, the fun will be great. If such a thing is really going to happen, it means that the magic world has turned upside down. Zhang Su didn't care about the issue of the centaur tribe standing in line, because it wasn't a problem at first, and the centaur elders knew how to choose. According to the first prophecy of the centaur elders, there will be many Death Eaters making trouble in the Forbidden Forest, so the centaur people will actively prepare for the battle. "I will tell Professor Dumbledore about this," Zhang Su said. "I will try my best to get you some help so that you can better prepare." As far as Zhang Su thought, this was an opportunity to show his favor to the horseman tribe, and the price for letting the horse people concentrate on preparing for the battle was to go to the fruit wholesale market for a while. That's all for this topic. More detailed matters will naturally be discussed by the elders and the principal. It is good that Zhang can be a sounding board. Then the topic turned back to the medicinal materials that Zhang Su came to look for today. There are two kinds of medicinal materials that are lacking in the horse tribe. One is plant-based and the other is animal-based. Zhang Su needs fresh ones for that kind of plant medicinal materials, and the horse people only need to use dry goods. Basically they only collect them and dry them when they need them, and they don't always keep fresh ones. As for that kind of animal medicinal materials, it is a bit troublesome for the centaur to capture that kind of animal alive. In addition, the centaur does not like to keep animals, so there will be no reserves in the tribe. Zhang Su bid farewell to the centaur elders after asking where the two herbs were produced, and was about to fly to gather herbs. As soon as he walked out of the gate of the centaur tribe, Zhang Su heard a loud noise. The two centaurs, Firenze and Ronan, were arguing and walking towards the gate. Firenze and Ronan are two representative centaurs in the tribe. Firenze is very friendly to human wizards, whether it is Zhang Su, Hagrid or other students met in the Forbidden Forest. Firenze can communicate with them in a pleasant manner. Ronan, on the other hand, is a guy who dislikes integrity. Usually he often shows distrust of human beings, and occasionally let Zhang Su see his poisonous tongue, but once he sees a student in danger in the Forbidden Forest, he always rushes to give the student a warning without hesitation, provide help. The centaurs in the Centaur tribe are basically like this. Everyone is very friendly to the students of Hogwarts, but the appearance is different. When Firenze and Ronan approached, Zhang Su heard that Ronan was strongly opposed to Harry helping them collect food for the winter. He thought he was raised, and Firenze repeatedly emphasized that this is better than grain from medicinal materials. It's just mutual assistance between friends, not who is raising whom. In the end, the two broke up. Ronan passed by Zhang Su without even looking at him and returned to the tribe. Firenze did something to Zhang Su. After an apologetic expression, he followed. Zhang Su wondered why Ronan thought that Harry and the others were planning to raise him, because he would not refuse Zhang Su's gift of fruit. When Zhang Su came to the fruit forest near the horse tribe, he saw a scene that made his teeth ache. A large group of Hogwarts students were scattered under the apple and plum trees, happily picking the fruits from the trees. The reason why Ronan was angry was probably because a certain student's deadly remarks angered him. Just now when Harry asked the Centaur Elder if he could find helpers, the Centaur Elder and Zhang Su thought he would find some people to help, but the cloud-piercing arrow released by Harry summoned such a large group of people. Suddenly, Zhang Su reached out to catch an apple that was thrown at him. Zhang Su took a bite of the apple in his hand. The meat was crispy and juicy, with a strong flavor, and it tasted pretty good. Why are there such a large group of people here? Zhang Su asked Scarlet, who was crazy with the students while chewing an apple. Why are you here? Potter found Professor McGonagall, and he said that he needed someone to help collect food for the Centaur in exchange for medicinal materials for treating Katie Bell, so Professor McGonagall agreed to bring someone here. Scarlet said. Then the news spread, and many students came to join in the fun. Professor McGonagall was afraid that something would happen to the students, so he asked Hagrid and I to watch over these students. Then keep busy. Zhang Su said after looking at the students around him speechlessly. Such a large group of people, as long as they don't die, can already rampage in the Forbidden Forest. Zhang Su went on to say, I still need to find two other things. You should be careful about them, and don't let them speak out. Are those two things troublesome? Scarlet frowned and asked. Zhang Su said with a smile, just bend down and pick it up from the ground. The horsemen just don't collect it because they don't need it. What Zhang Su said was not an exaggeration. After using Fijian to fly for a while, he arrived at the first destination. There are many high mountains around Hogwarts, and many high mountains are located between the tree line and the snow line in the alpine grassland, where a kind of short cushion-like grass grows. Because this kind of grass is very soft after being picked and dried, horse people like to use it to make mats and lie on it, so this kind of grass is called line grass by horse people. However, fresh line grass can be used to refine potions after squeezing the juice, so many wizards came to pick it. It took Zhang Su a few minutes to collect enough line grass. Next, Zhang Su came to the junction of the Forbidden Forest and the High Mountain, and then gave himself a wind ear, and then began to listen to the voices in the woods. Unlike the plants that grow in the ground, the last animals to be caught today cannot stay in a place in the Forbidden Forest and wait for Zhang Su to catch them. Fortunately, Zhang Su has a spell to improve his hearing, so he can easily find hidden places. He likes to use sound to lure his prey. Today's trip went smoothly, and Zhang Su quickly found his target. After Zhang Su heard the sound of the prey, he immediately followed the sound and rushed over. The sound came from a tree hole, so Zhang Su quickly found the second target of the day. Perhaps hearing the movement outside the tree hole, a magical animal jumped out of the tree hole. However, Zhang Su, who was ready, punched it straight, and smashed the humming monster onto the tree behind it. This monkey-like monster is very sensitive to magic power, and if you use a magic wand, it will scare it away. And the best way to deal with it is to use physical methods, beat it with fists until it can't take care of itself. Zhang Su checked that it was still early, and after tying up the monster, he flew back to the fruit forest near the Centaur tribe. Chapter 384 Canon number 039, T-Show of Voldemort movies. The Harry Potter trio took baskets of apples and plums picked by their classmates to the Centaur tribe to hand in the task, and then the group happily returned to Hogwarts Castle with a basket of packed medicinal materials. When they returned to the castle, they saw Professor McGonagall and Zhang Su, who were talking in front of the gate. Zhang Zuyan took his harvest to Slytherin in the potions classroom in the basement, and met Professor McGonagall when he returned to the fair. Recently, Loudeng was not around, and Professor McGonagall was in charge of everything, so Zhang Su reported to her the movement of the horse people and asked her to pass it on to Loudeng. Do the horses have enough food for the winter? Professor McGonagall asked with some concern. As the vice headmaster of Hogwarts, she naturally understands the importance of the Centaur tribe to Hogwarts. Zhang Su replied pessimistically, judging from the number of unpicked fruits so far, although the horse people will not starve to death this winter, they will definitely not be as well off as before. The normal daily food intake of a horse is about, % of their body weight. And the centaur is huge. An adult centaur like Firenze weighs more than 500 kilograms, and lawless of 300 caddies in the tribe run around the streets. Due to the high altitude of the Forbidden Forest and the long winter, the horse people will not be able to collect food on a large scale until the end of spring next year, so they need to stockpile winter food for nearly 5 months from mid-November to April. Calculated in this way, each adult centaur must prepare 2 to 3 tons of food to survive the winter relatively easily, so the food needed for the entire centaur tribe to survive the winter is a very large amount. If we go to help the horse people collect food. Professor McGonagall frowned and began to think about the feasibility of this matter. I don't think this is a good choice, Zhang Su said, shaking his head. Perhaps the horse people will have the illusion that we are raising them. Today, some horse people have such an illusion. Professor McGonagall is also very helpless about this. It is very difficult for him to meet such an ally whose 3 views do not agree with his own. So Professor McGonagall decisively decided to push the matter to Dumbledore. At this time, Harry and the others came back with medicinal materials. Dividing lines shortly after dinner, the news that Katie Bell had woken up after receiving treatment spread across the common rooms of the 4 colleges in an instant. Now Zhang Su shirks a lot of things on the grounds that he needs to recuperate, so he naturally has to go to Madame Pomfrey for regular checkups, and take some auxiliary medicines as healthcare products. Zhang Su, who had just left the school infirmary, also went to the ward to visit Katie Bell just now, but although she woke up, she was not very energetic. Under the effect of Madame Pomfrey's auxiliary medicine, soon fell asleep. As for the fact that Madame Pomfrey gave Zhang Su and Katie Bell the auxiliary medicines that were all poured out of the same big bottle, Zhang did not know. After returning to his dormitory, Zhang Su came to the study, took out a thickly folded map from a cropped paper bag and spread it on the desk. Today, after hearing the Elder Centaur's prophecy about mechanized troops sweeping across the Forbidden Forest, Zhang Su suddenly realized that there was a problem that he hadn't paid attention to all these years, and that was the terrain around Hogwarts. Due to the wizard's unscientific mobility, Zhang Su has been ignoring this point. Although the magic of Hogwarts prevents it from being marked on the map, it is not difficult to find Hogwarts' location on maps, especially topographic maps. Through indirect methods, Mr. Zhang has long determined the latitude and longitude of the circle around Hogwarts through GPS positioning. As long as these coordinates are connected into a circle, the location of Hogwarts can be known. Due to various considerations, Zhang Su did not tell Dumbledore about this method. It can be seen from the topographic map that the area where Hogwarts Hogsmeade is located in a basin between several high mountains, surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. Only the side of the Forbidden Forest is not blocked by high mountains, and the terrain relatively flat. For the first time, Zhang Su carefully studied this topographic map from the perspective of Muggles attacking Hogwarts. Not long after, he discovered that a large-scale attack on Hogwarts, which was surrounded by mountains, and the relatively flat Forbidden Forest is the only option. After confirming it at this time, Zhang Su put it aside and ignored it. If the matter really develops to that point, it is beyond his personal ability to solve it. After packing up the things on the desk, Zhang Su opened the door of the study and returned to the living room. The moment he entered the living room, a sweet smell of apples flooded into his nostrils. Scarlet, who was sitting on the sofa, waved to him, then pointed to the coffee table. Zhang Su walked over and found a huge apple pie emitting bursts of aroma from the coffee table. Scarlet cut off a few pieces of apple pie and put them on small plates, handed them to the hairy trio sitting around the coffee table, and finally shared a piece for himself and Zhang Su. Zhang Su looked at the 4 people who did not know when they appeared in the living room of the dormitory with a confused face, picked up his share of apple pie and ate it. Just as confused as Zhang Su was Harry's trio. The 3 of them came to Zhang Su for something, but they didn't expect Professor Scarlet to open the door for them after knocking on the door. Now Harry and the others are thinking whether to find an excuse and run away quickly, as if what happened tonight never happened. The atmosphere was a little weird for a while. Scarlet said that she and a few girls left a lot of apples, and made a lot of apple pies in the kitchen just now while the other four were silently eating the sweet apple pie with their own thoughts. Not long after, Zhang Su finally found a topic to break the atmosphere. Harry, can you still dream about what Voldemort saw and heard recently? Zhang Su asked. Everyone here knows that Harry and Voldemort had a tacit understanding. It's just that Harry didn't mention such a thing recently, so everyone didn't pay attention. No more. Harry shook his head and said, Professor Dumbledore said he used occlumency to seal his brain, and he realized that this kind of thing is a double-edged sword for him. That's a pity, Zhang Su said regretfully, so I planned to show him something good. As the saying goes, if you come and don't reciprocate, if Voldemort can show Harry a small video of Black being caught and tortured by them, why can't Harry repay him in the same way? Zhang Su even wrote the script. In the foyer of Hogwarts Castle, the tall and burly Hagrid stood opposite Voldemort. Hagrid, you're back. I've been waiting for you for over 50 years. Voldemort, Hagrid, it's been more than 50 years. I knew what that monster was from the very beginning. Aragog told me the true identity of that monster. Voldemort, oh Hagrid, I know, you will be homeless after leaving Hogwarts, and I can still have a place to stay. So I let you know that I am secretly raising Aragog, so that you can stay at Hogwarts. Voldemort, to Hagrid, 50 plus years, I want you to understand, I Voldemort, degree Cyrillic lettered said degree Zhang estimated that there was a certain chance of driving Voldemort crazy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385. Harry didn't come to Zhang Su's dormitory tonight for supper. Originally, they had some new discoveries and wanted to talk to Zhang Su, but they didn't think it was suitable to discuss this topic tonight. So after finishing their supper, Harry's trio randomly asked questions about what gifts should be given to Firenze's wedding, and then ran away. You scared them all away. Zhang Su said to Scarlet while eating a delicious apple pie. Eat your food, stop talking nonsense. After Scarlet finished speaking, he cut another piece of apple pie with a knife, and stuffed it into Zhang Su's nostril with a fork. Zhang Su used a body transformation technique on himself, turning his mouth into an exaggerated mouth like a character in a funny animation, and took the apple pie that was aimed at his nostrils. Your body transformation technique is very good. Scarlet said with some surprise. I have something even better, do you want to have a look? Zhang Su looked at Scarlet with a funny expression and said. Go show it to Professor McGonagall, she will be interested. Scarlet said lightly. After a while, the rest of the apple pie was eaten amid the bickering between the two. After disposing of the dishes, Scarlet said, okay, let's get down to business. What's the matter? Zhang Su asked strangely. Dumbledore came back just now, and he decided to purchase a batch of fruits from Muggles to support the Centaur tribe, and the task of purchasing these fruits fell to me and Bubaji. Scarlet said, you get acquainted with the horse people and see what fruits to buy. It's not surprising that Dumbledore made such a decision for Zhang Su, and there are not many opportunities to give charcoal in a timely manner. After receiving this task, Scarlet and Bubaji attached great importance to it, so even if there were some detailed questions, Scarlet would come to Zhang Su to clarify. Zhang Su recalled the fruits that often appeared in horse people's banquets in the past and said, the horse people tribe is very conservative. It's good for them to try new fruits, but it's definitely not good to eat them as a meal, so I look for those kinds of fruits. The fruits they often eat will do. Apple is the main type of fruit. They all like to eat apples. You can also add some common fruits in the British Isles such as plums, chestnuts and grapes. If you want to start a war with the horse people immediately, you can give them durians. Dumbledore decided to support the horsemen with a large amount of fruit, and it would take several containers to fill them up. How to transport them to the Forbidden Forest was a hassle. So when Scarlet and Bubaji were making plans these days, Scarlet often came to disturb Zhang Su who was doing exercises. And this made it impossible for Harry's trio to discuss anything with Zhang Su. However, it seemed that Harry was in a hurry. In order to discuss something with Zhang Su, he did not hesitate to attend the slug party organized by Slytherin to block Zhang Su. When Zhang Su brought a girl from the Snake Academy to the potions professor's office and saw Harry and Ginny appearing together, he was really taken aback. Harry and Ginny, who participated in the slug party for the first time, were also taken aback by the girls brought by Zhang Su. When the girl went to say hello to other students who attended the party, the gossiping Ginny came over and asked, "Why did you bring Lawrence here, Zhang?" "I picked her up in the corridor, she had nothing to do tonight, so I brought her here," Zhang Su said lightly. His tone was like picking up a kitten on the side of the road and taking it with him. Same as coffee shop. It's really just that. Ginny's face was full of distrust. "What else do you think?" Zhang Su was afraid of this little girl who was full of curiosity about gossip news. No wonder she would become a reporter in the future. "I think there are other stories behind this," Ginny said with bright eyes. Zhang Su sighed and said in a low voice, "There is indeed a story behind this." At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded beside Zhang Su and the others. "Can you share this story with me?" "Good evening, Professor Slughorn." Zhang Su and the others hurriedly greeted the visitors. Slughorn nodded to the three students, looked at the girl in the crowd who was greeting people, and said, "My poor old friend Crawford just left, leaving poor little Molly behind." After Slughorn finished speaking, he looked at Zhang Su meaningfully. The goblet in his hand was shaking rhythmically round and round, and the red wine inside was like a whirlpool of blood under the candlelight. Zhang Su smiled and lowered his head to look at the chubby Slughorn, and said, "The elders went the wrong way, that's the elders' business. I think the younger generation can make achievements beyond the elders after learning the lessons from the elders." Slughorn and Zhang Su looked at each other for a while, then sighed and said, "If Clafford and the others had listened to my advice, such a thing would not have happened." "Then Molly she is now." Zhang Su gave Slughorn a reassuring expression, and said, "She won a chance for herself." "Then I'm relieved." Slughorn breathed a sigh of relief. Harry on the side listened to the conversation between the two of them as if listening to an Indian speaking English. He seemed to understand it, but after 2 seconds, he realized that he really didn't understand it just now. And Ginny nodded thoughtfully. She heard some things from her parents and elder brother, and vaguely knew what they were going to say. In the next second, Slughorn's face changed into that kind of happy laughter. He took Zhang Su with one hand, and said to Harry and Ginny at the same time, "Come on, young people, I heard that you are all Quidditch good players. Tonight I will introduce you to Gwyneth Jones. He is the captain of the Holyhead Harpies. I believe you will have a lot of common language." So Slughorn led them into the middle of the office, where a man with a stinking face was sitting at a desk and Ron, with starry eyes, was sitting next to him and kept talking to him, while he ignored Ron. Seeing how unbearable her sixth brother was, Ginny thought she should be able to cast the Avada Kedavra at full power by now. Zhang Su remembered that Zhang Chu had mentioned this person to him. He was a famous player on the British Quidditch field. Just by looking at his expression, you can tell that he is the kind of person whose heart swells and becomes self-centered after receiving a lot of honors and praises. In fact, it is very simple to deal with this kind of person, as long as your fame and honor are stronger than him. After chatting for a few words, Zhang Su found that the other party's attitude was not friendly, so he found an excuse to leave after saying a few more words. After Zhang Su left that table, he walked towards the table full of snacks. This was the reason why he promised Slughorn to attend his party. Chapter 386 Going for a Stroll Somewhere. After the slug party, Zhang Su had just left the potions professor's office and was about to go to the kitchen not far away to prepare some supper, when Harry suddenly appeared from behind him, grabbed the sleeve of his robe, and walking and said to him, "Please come with me, I have something to trouble you." Zhang Su froze for a moment, and followed without saying anything. He was a little curious about what Harry was going to do. After coming out of the basement, Harry took out his Marauder's map, followed the marks on the map to avoid the wandering students in the castle, and led Zhang Su forward. Zhang Su, who followed Harry around the castle, asked curiously, "Why didn't you invite Ron and Hermione together?" Looking at the map, Harry said, "They need to tell the people in the common room that I've been called away by Professor Dumbledore." Zhang Su stretched his head to look at the Marauder's map, and then saw the empty principal's office. Not knowing where Harry was going, Zhang Su could only follow behind. After a while, the two of them came to a corridor, and Zhang Su, who had seen clearly what was on the other side of the corridor, stopped in his tracks. Harry, who had been looking at the Marauder's map, saw Zhang Su stop, and looked back at Zhang Su suspiciously. "I don't think this is the place we should come to," Zhang Su said to Harry. "Don't worry, There's no one here, Harry said. It's not a question of whether there are people or not. Zhang Su said seriously, it's a matter of principle. No matter whether there are people or not, we can't go there. Seeing Zhang Su's resolute refusal to go to the girls' bathroom, Harry could only say, I'm not going to the girls' bathroom, but I'm going to the secret room through there. At first Zhang Su thought that Harry was going to drag him here to ambush Malfoy, but he didn't expect that he wanted to go to the Chamber of Secrets. The fact that the entrance to Slytherin's Chamber of Secrets is in the girls' bathroom is known to all Hogwarts students of a certain age back then. A group of students found the passage to the Chamber of Secrets with the help of the ghosts in the castle, and then Dumbledore led the team to blast open the entrance of the passage and went in, bringing back the sloughed skin of the basilisk. After that time, almost no students came to this bathroom for activities. Seeing the puzzled expression on Zhang Su's face, Harry could only explain to him patiently, recently, I have often observed Malfoy's actions through the Marauder's map. I found that he appeared there several times. I went there with Ron and Hermione and found nothing strange. So I think Malfoy's actions should be related to the Chamber of Secrets. Zhang Su had to admire Harry Potter's brains, he could come up with such a script. Why do you think Malfoy will do something through the Chamber of Secrets? Zhang Su asked curiously. Harry thought for a while and replied, you also know that Voldemort is a descendant of Slytherin, and the basilisk was released by Voldemort's Horcrux controlling Lockhart. Zhang Su nodded, he knew a lot more than Harry about the descendants of Slytherin or the basilisk incident. After seeing Zhang Su nodding, Harry continued, if Voldemort asks Malfoy to do something that needs to be concealed, then Malfoy needs a place where almost no one else appears to carry out his plan. And Voldemort knows the Chamber of Secrets, so it is not impossible for him to tell Malfoy how to open the Chamber of Secrets, and let Malfoy use this Chamber of Secrets that no one will disturb him to carry out his plan. And Professor Dumbledore told me that the Death Eaters once broke into the Chamber of Secrets and rescued Barty Crouch Jr., who was imprisoned there at the time. In this way, Malfoy is more likely to use the Chamber of Secrets. After hearing Harry's guess, Zhang Su's eyes widened, as if he was seeing Harry for the first time. He kept looking at him. I have to say that Harry's speculation is very reasonable. Today, when plot is not very useful, this kind of possibility does not exist. If that's the case, Zhang Su didn't think about it deeply, because it would involve a very core issue. Okay then, I'll walk with you, Zhang Su said to Harry. After hearing Zhang Su's agreement, Harry breathed a sigh of relief. The two boys walked into the girls' bathroom and closed the door. At this moment, Zhang Su said to Harry, next, if any dangerous accident happens, you must leave immediately if I tell you to leave. Harry just wanted to object, but he nodded in agreement after thinking about Zhang Su's ability to escape at the Ministry of Magic award ceremony last time. Then Zhang Su said, if you escape after an accident, you must notify Professor Scarlet as soon as possible. Harry was stunned for a moment before he could react. Zhang Su said to him, some things are much more complicated than you imagined. Before Harry could ask any questions, Zhang Su rushed him to open the passage to the secret room. The process of entering the secret room through the pipe is very uncomfortable, and the ultra-long distance slide is not comfortable, especially when the slide is still very unsanitary. After Harry jumped into the entrance of the passage, Zhang Su simply took out a transformation biscuit from Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, ate it and turned into a hummingbird, and then flew into the entrance of the passage. Since he doesn't need to control the magic power to maintain his transformation, Zhang Su can have the energy to observe whether there is any magic around the pipe while flying. When he flew out from the other end of the pipe, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief while transforming back to his original form. There was no warning magic set by Malfoy along the way. Harry, on the other hand, used a spell to clean the robes on his body, while looking depressedly at Zhang Su, who was spotless. Zhang Su saw that Harry was about to go to the secret room, so he grabbed him. Have you brought your invisibility cloak? Zhang Su asked. If so, put it on first. Take it on, said Harry, taking out the invisibility cloak from his fanny pack. The fanny pack was magically expanded, and it was a birthday present from Zhang Su to Harry. Harry coveted Zhang Su's treasure bag for a long time, so Zhang Su made one for him. It's just different from the treasure bag given to Zhang Chu, which is a modified Chanel handbag. The shape of the fanny pack given to Harry is the kind that a rich boss hangs on his waist to put money on his brother. It is hidden that when the author's eldest sister returned to her hometown in the countryside with such a purse, she was regarded by the villagers as the boss who came to buy Piglet's hide. You put on the invisibility cloak before you move forward, Zhang Su said. At the same time, Zhang Su took out a pair of goggles with night vision function and put them on. After Harry saw it, he hurriedly took out his own pair of goggles and put them on, and then put on the invisibility cloak. Everyone who brushed a basilisk back then had a pair of goggles like this. Then Zhang Su joked, "If you just use your wand to walk along the road, in case there are few Death Eaters living here, you will be delivering food." Zhang Su's words made Harry shiver in fright. While taking out the Auror-style invisibility cloak he got from Percy, Zhang Su preached to Harry, "Before every action, you must prepare for the worst-case scenario, and don't hesitate to be prepared for emergencies." How troublesome. During the period, Harry also wanted to ask Zhang Su to hide in his invisibility cloak together like traveling with Ron and the others. Zhang Su considered that he must have close contact with Harry in the invisibility cloak, so he refused Harry to use the death cloak together. Suggestions from the Hallows. If the other party was Harry Potter, Zhang would consider it for 3 seconds before agreeing. Having said that, if Harley's aunt is in pain, Voldemort should be in pain at the same time. After Harry put on the invisibility cloak, Zhang Su also put on the invisibility cloak, and after speaking to Harry a few precautions, he walked forward cautiously, while Harry silently counted 10. Then he walked forward. Chapter 387. In the underground passage without a ray of light, human eyes have lost their original function. At the same time, there is no sound at all here. People who stay here for a long time can only hear the sound of their own breathing and heartbeat. Locking people here alone is not much more comfortable than being locked up in Azkaban. Walking alone in such an environment, a person needs to beware of possible enemies in the dark, which requires a strong psychological quality. Although wearing goggles with night vision function allowed him to see the surrounding road clearly, the feeling of silence and oppression around him was constantly eroding Harry's heart. Although Harry knew that Zhang Su was not far away, he couldn't see or hear the other party's figure, which gave him the illusion that Zhang Su had quietly left. Zhang Su was walking not far in front of Harry, and he couldn't help frowning when he heard the occasional voices from Harry's feet behind him. If someone was actually guarding here, Harry would have been spotted by the sound of footsteps. After a while, the two came to the main entrance of the secret room. After Zhang Su checked the surroundings for nothing unusual, he tapped the wall a few times rhythmically with his wand, and then took off the invisibility cloak almost at the same time as Harry. Zhang Su used his magic wand to release a few balls of flames floating in the air like ghostly will-o'-the-wisps, instantly illuminating the entire space with a glaring white light. If Zhang Su and Harry hadn't been wearing goggles, their eyes would have been dazzled. After a while, Zhang Su adjusted the light of the flame to the normal brightness, and then said to Harry, "Harry, go back and check to see if there are any traces on the ground other than the traces of us coming in." Weird place. Harry nodded, using his wand as a flashlight, and began to carefully search for possible clues on the ground. After Zhang Su confirmed the safety of the passageway, he asked Harry to go back to look for clues, which was considered as an exercise for Harry since he was responsible for what happened this time. Let him work harder. Before Harry came back, Zhang Su checked his surroundings and found several protective magic and alarm magic that Dumbledore deliberately let his own people discover. Zhang Su can be sure that Dumbledore has already known the actions of the two of them. Now maybe Old Deng is hiding somewhere, peeping deleted, at this moment and protecting Harry. But with Harry as the amulet, Zhang Su is not afraid that Deng will make trouble for him afterwards. After more than 10 minutes, Harry came back with a serious face. Seeing Harry's expression, Zhang Su's heart skipped a beat. Did he really discover something? "I found this on the ground." Harry stretched out the hands of those things in front of Zhang Su. Zhang Su saw a few white particles on the handkerchief in Harry's hand. After Zhang Su checked that there was no magic that could harm people on those things, he picked up 2 spare ones as chopsticks, and picked up one of them. After inspection, these things are all wax drops formed by candle tears on the ground after burning candles. Because ordinary wizards don't use candles for lighting here, using a wand is enough to provide lighting. Moreover, the candles used by wizards seldom have candle tears dripping down, otherwise Hogwarts would be dripping wax on a large scale during dinner time every day. It seems that there have been some serious guests, Zhang Su said to Harry. At this moment, Zhang Su also became serious. Maybe this matter is the same as what Harry guessed. Someone is messing around in the secret room. Moreover, those who can make trouble under Dumbledore's nose must not be good, or have Dumbledore's tacit approval. Harry glanced at the door of the Chamber of Secrets, and swallowed nervously. Maybe there was a group of Death Eaters behind this door. At this moment, Zhang Su patted Harry on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry, there will definitely not be any great danger. If there is danger, Professor Dumbledore will certainly not ignore it." Hearing what Zhang Su said, Harry relaxed a little. Although Harry has been tested for a long time, he has not yet reached the point where Taitian collapses in front of him without changing his face. Seeing that Harry had calmed down, Zhang Su asked, "What are you going to do after opening the door?" Harry didn't expect Zhang Su to ask such a question. After all, every time he and Zhang Su act together, Zhang Su is basically in command. As soon as the door is opened, put a spell inside to suppress it. Harry thought for a while and said, "Then we should rush in or close the door depending on the situation." "Okay." Zhang Su replied. "Do you have any suggestions?" Harry asked. "You initiated this operation, so I will follow your command," Zhang Su said. Now Harry was under a lot of pressure, and Zhang Su suddenly handed over the command, which caught him off guard. After Harry took a few deep breaths, he began to open the door of the Chamber of Secrets in Parseltongue. As soon as the door opened to a crack just wide enough for people to walk in and out sideways, Harry immediately raised his wand and cast several spells inside at once. The moment Zhang Su just opened the door, he saw the darkness in the secret room, so he let the light inside immediately. The lighting technique that a wizard must be proficient in is most suitable for sneak attacks in such dim places. No matter how powerful a wizard is, they will be blinded by the strong light. A wave of operations was as fierce as a tiger, but the secret room was quiet. Except for the sound of Harry's spells hitting the floor and walls, the Chamber of Secrets was silent. This scene made Harry a little embarrassed, and deep in his heart he longed for something to be accomplished when he commanded, hoping that one or two Death Eaters would hide behind the door and prepare to sneak up on them, and then be knocked down by his spell. Then you can show off a little in front of Zhang Su. Standing at the door and looking at the empty secret room inside, Harry checked again and again to confirm that there was no one in there before calling Zhang Su in. And Zhang, who saw all this, stood behind Harry and smiled without saying a word, just followed him into the secret room. In the secret room, the lighting technique that Zhang Su cast just now is still working, but the brightness has dropped to the level of normal indoor lighting. "Let's search separately to see if there are any clues," Harry said to Zhang Su with some embarrassment. At first, he pulled Zhang Su over with enthusiasm, but when he arrived, he found that the place was empty and there was nothing there. Disappointed, Harry walked towards the statue of Lythrin in the Chamber of Secrets. Zhang Su is not like Harry, who ignores some details when his emotions are ups and downs. The wax drop that Harry found outside just now is an important clue, and he may be able to discover some extraordinary things by relying on it. As for the origin of these wax drops, Zhang Su already had some guesses. Chapter 388 Only One Murderer. Harry searched the secret room carefully for nearly 2 hours. From the floor to the wall to the ceiling, he carefully observed it, but found nothing. On the other side, Zhang Su, who pretended to be trying to find clues, but actually touched the fish all night, was already yawning there. "I didn't find any clues tonight," Harry said to Zhang Su with a bit of reluctance. "I tossed so hard at the beginning tonight, but in the end I got nothing. I think you should bring Professor Dumbledore over next time," Zhang Su said to Harry. "Maybe he can find something that we haven't." Harry felt that what Zhang Su said was quite reasonable, and after seeing the slightly tired expression on his face, he decided to stop tonight's actions. After finishing this anticlimactic operation, Zhang Su went back to his dormitory to wash up and go to sleep, but the little clue found in the passage made the trio of Harry think. For other things, I will go to Loudon when Zhang Su is free and ask him what he thinks. The days that followed returned to normal. Hogwarts students had their first Quidditch match of the school year. Off campus, the only good news was the new night buses coming into service, and other than that, there was little to cheer the wizards up. Since the last search operation in the Chamber of Secrets was almost unsuccessful, the Harry trio has stepped up their surveillance of Malfoy. Hermione, who wasn't very interested in Quidditch, even found an excuse of not feeling well, so she didn't go to watch the match between her house and the Snake House. Instead, she hid in the dormitory and watched Malfoy's actions with a Marauder's map. After Voldemort's public appearance at the end of last school year, Dumbledore and the Ministry of Magic went through a series of transactions, and most of the education orders issued by then Minister of Magic Fudge and most of the orders of Senior Inquisitor Percy Weasley were revoked, but both parties had forgotten to revoke Percy's ban on Draco Malfoy from Quidditch for life. Even now that Malfoy has won a Medal of the Order of Merlin, this prohibition is still valid during the period. Malfoy wrote to the Ministry of Magic to respond to this problem, but all those letters were thrown into the sea. In Harry's eyes, when almost all the students in the school watched the Quidditch match, it was the best time for Malfoy to make troubles. As a result, Hermione saw on the Marauders map that Malfoy did not leave their college common room, and only saw Zang teasing Mrs. Norris and Crookshanks on the balcony of the corridor for a long time, as well as Larry Fu ran to the top of the astronomy tower. It was late at night, and the trio of Zhang Su and Harry, who had been approved by the vice principal, Professor McGonagall, to go to the Centaur tribe to attend the wedding of Firenze, were returning to Hogwarts Castle after attending the wedding. The Centaur's wedding opened the eyes of Harry's trio, and they feasted on all kinds of fruits and mushrooms that are rarely eaten on weekdays. As for why tropical and subtropical products such as sugarcane, pineapple, watermelon, pomelo, mangosteen, and custard apples appeared at the wedding banquet, Zhang Su asked the three of them to ask Scarlet. Several people walked and chatted in the Forbidden Forest, and the topic changed from today's Quidditch match to Katie Bell, the lion chaser who was injured because of the opal necklace. As the captain of the Lion House Quidditch team, Harry recently wrote a letter to Katie Bell to find out more about her physical condition. He said to several people around him, "Katie Bell is sending Saint. She has been well taken care of in the hospital and is recovering very quickly, and I think she will be back after the Christmas break." "Have you found the murderer?" Zhang Su asked Harry and the others. Since Katie Bell's accident, the students in Hogwarts have once again embarked on a journey to solve the crime together, and the Harry trio has participated in many of them as the parties involved. It's just that Zhang knew about the murderer early in the morning, and it was only 260 days before the college entrance examination, so he didn't get involved. Now I don't know what step this group of tried and tested students have achieved, so Zhang Su asked curiously. "You are one of the suspects," Hermione said to Zhang Su. The stunned Zhang Su almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. "Why me?" Zhang Su asked in confusion. "Because no one saw you anywhere else in Hogsmeade when someone handed that necklace to Katie Bell," Hermione explained to Zhang Su. Looking at Zhang Su, who was in a daze, Hermione continued to explain, "We spent a long time doing investigations. Most of the people who went to Hogsmeade had two or more people who could prove that the other party was not in the three in the ladies' room at the Broom Bar. And a handful of people, including you, did not have an alibi for that time." "Very good, very powerful." Zhang Su nodded and said to Hermione, "This method of relying on the masses and mobilizing them to carry out a step-by-step investigation is very good. I think the culprit is likely to be among the suspects you found." Then Zhang Su looked at Harry and asked, looking at Harry's actions, "I think Malfoy is also among them." Malfoy said that he took a detour from the residential area to the Owl Post office, but few students would go to the residential area, so there are no witnesses to prove whether his words are true or false. Hermione replied. "Then what about the others?" Zhang Su asked. Hermione obviously played a huge role in the investigation, which details the details. She said, "There was a couple claiming they were upstairs at the Hog's Head, and the owner of the Hog's Head refused to answer any of our questions. A 7th grade student claimed that he was looking for a house to rent in a residential area and planned to move there after graduation." At this moment, Zhang Su was sure that the students had not communicated with the Aurors, otherwise they would have narrowed their targets down to Zhang Su and Malfoy. "I think the one looking for the house is innocent," Zhang Su said to Hermione. "He asked me before whether the house was rented or not." "Then what about you?" Hermione looked at Zhang Su and asked. "No one saw you for a long time that day. I was on the 2nd floor of that coffee shop at the time, and all the waiters in the shop could testify for me," Zhang Su said. Zhang Su's ability to go to the 2nd floor of the coffee shop was something that many people knew and envied and hated. Hermione believed him when he said that. Zhang Su continued, "Have you ever thought about the Imperious Curse or Compound Potion? If the real murderer uses these two methods, then it is very likely that others will become scapegoats. So now our investigation is deadlocked." Hermione said, "Now we can only guess the target of the murderer, and then deduce who the murderer is." Hearing this, Zhang Su was relieved. No wonder Harry chased Malfoy's ass to investigate, while Hermione and Ron's opposition was limited. It was because Malfoy's motivation was sufficient. "Who has such a big feud with who in the school now?" Zhang Su said. At this time, Ron, who had been silent by the side, let out two he. Hermione glared at Ron and said, "Say what you know, don't act like you know but don't want to say it." "I'm fine here, It has nothing to do with this matter," Zhang Su said to Ron. Now Hermione and Harry were both confused by Zhang Su's words. "You just spared them like that?" Ron asked in surprise. "This step is enough," Zhang Su replied. Ron said oh and fell silent. Hermione looked at the two people who were playing charades and didn't know what to say for a while. This kind of situation didn't just happen to Ron. Many students of the magic family, including Neville, had similar behaviors. Everyone was thinking about something tacit understanding, but whenever Hermione asked them, they kept tight-lipped. The grievances between Zhang Su and those families can be seen by other families, but Zhang Su didn't want to make a plot of retribution, so he asked Dumbledore to come forward to control public opinion. Zhang Su glanced at Harry, who was also confused, and said to him, "If you want to know about this, you can ask Black. I think he should know about it." Regardless of Hermione, who was about to go crazy, Zhang Su changed the topic to preventing the next attack. At this time, Zhang Su and his party had already reached the edge of the Forbidden Forest. They suddenly saw a figure moving under the moonlight, and the possibility of Hagrid was first ruled out from the figure's size. Zhang Su and the others took out their wands one after another, and spread out to surround them from several directions. The figure stood under the shade of the tree that the moonlight could not reach, making Zhang Su and the others unable to see each other's face clearly. The next moment, 4 curses were shot at the figure at the same time. Chapter 389, Zhang and Number 039, S Special Mission. In the 6th grade, the content of the transformation class talked about the human body deformation part, and Professor McGonagall began to ask students to change the color and length of hair and eyebrows. Body transfiguration is not a simple magic. If you are not careful, you will make mistakes. Zhang Su did a lot of hard work when he was studying at the Giant Panda Breeding Research Base. During that time, he did not sleep more than 4 hours a night. After that period of hard work, Zhang Su not only learned the transformation of an animagus, but also basically mastered the art of body transformation. Now, he has pinched his face into this year's Leonardo DiCaprio pressure. In class, after seeing Leonardo Su's performance, the students all thought that the body deformation technique was mediocre. As a result, various accidents occurred when they tried to make their hair longer for the first time. Time kept Professor McGonagall a little busy, so she had to grab Leonardo Su, who had basically mastered the course, as a free labor force to help with some minor problems. "It's a beautiful beard, not much worse than Professor Dumbledore's beard," Leonardo Su said to Harry, who had made a mistake in his magic. Leonard Su checked Harry's face more, and found that there was nothing serious except for the beard, so he asked him to trim the beard into the style he liked. "Is Neville alright?" Leonardo Su asked Harry, who was shaving. "Madame Pomfrey said he can go back to the dormitory tonight," Harry replied coyly. A week ago, when Zhang Su and the others came back from the Centaur tribe to attend Firenze's wedding, they saw people moving around the edge of the Forbidden Forest, and they teamed up to shoot Neville, who was growing special potatoes in the Forbidden Forest. School infirmary. Because the 4 curses were working at the same time, Neville had to lie down for 2 or 3 days before waking up Zhang Su, and the others were quite embarrassed to have such a big oolong. While shaving his beard, Harry asked Leonardo Su, "Zhang, are you going to Professor Slughorn's Christmas party?" "It depends," Leonard Su replied. "You also know that I have to go back for Christmas vacation." Then Leonard Su Zhang asked Harry, "Where are you going to spend this Christmas holiday?" "I'm going to the Burrow for Christmas," Harry replied. Ron, who was sitting next to him at this time, also continued, "It must be very lively at home this year. Charlie brought his girlfriend back. Bill and Charlie plan to hold their wedding at the same time next year." "Really?" Harry and Hermione asked in surprise. Harry said, "Why didn't I hear Ginny talk about it?" Ron glanced sideways at Harry and said, "I only found out after I received my mother's letter this morning." While Ron, Harry, and Hermione were wondering what kind of person Charlie's girlfriend was, Leonardo took the opportunity to leave their table. He was afraid that he would remind them to be careful of Charlie's girlfriend. In the following time, Hogwarts restored its former tranquility. During this period of time, Dumbledore only appeared in Hogwarts for a quarter of the time, during which Zhang Su found time to talk to him. In normal times, Zhang Su continued to indulge in the sea of questions until 12 o'clock in the evening. In the past, he relied on gossip news in the school to adjust his mood. It was the day before the Christmas holiday. At the venue of the Slug Christmas party, Harry did not find Zhang Su's shadow after searching for a while, but saw Malfoy, who was caught by Filch. At the same time, Zhang Su, who left Hogwarts on leave in advance, fell into an unexpected crisis. In an office of the Chinese embassy in the UK, thick curtains all around separate the indoor and outdoor worlds. Under the bright lights in the office, Zhang Su and several people sit together on both sides of the long desk. The tiguanine in the white porcelain teacup is emitting a faint white gas. Zhang Su, who was supposed to be on the plane right now, was called over for a meeting as soon as he arrived in London. Although Zhang Su had participated in many similar meetings, it was the first time that the composition of the participants was so weird. In addition to the personnel from the diplomatic, intelligence and security departments in the past, sitting opposite Zhang Su today are several new faces in this office. Although they are new faces here, Zhang Su has met them several times in the past few years. Because of this, Zhang Su felt faintly uneasy in his heart. Taking advantage of the leader's late arrival, a middle-aged man sitting opposite Zhang Su greeted him. "Xiao Zhang, how are you doing?" "Not very good," Zhang Su replied suddenly, feeling dizzy, insomnia, weak waist and knees, and it's boring to go up 2 floors. The other party said hey twice and then stopped talking. Just then, the door of the office opened and the ambassador walked in. The ambassador sat on the main seat and said, "I'm sorry, I just received the latest news, so I'm 3 minutes late. Let's talk about things directly." In the early hours of tomorrow, Mingming, who had previously returned to China for treatment, will take a special plane to arrive at London Heathrow Airport, and then he will drive to the London Zoo. The giant panda obviously came to the London Zoo in 1994, but half a year ago it felt unwell and was diagnosed with an intestinal disease, and was sent back to the Chengdu research base of giant panda breeding for treatment. Mingming, who was in Sichuan last month, has fully recovered after inspection. In order to allow him to meet tourists during the Christmas holiday, the British side specially arranged a special plane to take him back to the London Zoo from Sichuan. For this reason, the London Zoo can be said to have done enough advertising in the media. The ambassador went on to say, "At present, we have received reliable information that a group of militants suspected of being from the Northern Irish Republican Army are planning to kidnap Mingming on the way." As soon as the ambassador's words fell, there was a lot of curses in the office. Everyone greeted the immediate family members of the terrorists in the local language from south to north, and from east to west. Anyway, the other party is European, so they are not afraid of scolding their own heads. After a while, the ambassador knocked on the table, and when the meeting room became quiet, he continued, "Everyone knows the importance of this matter. If something goes wrong with our national treasure in the UK, it will be a huge disaster, widespread disaster. The British government has promised to strengthen security measures on the road, but we must also prepare accordingly. Now we have set up an emergency response team. I am the team leader, and Professor Lee Tayton from the Giant Panda Breeding Research Base is one of the deputy team leaders. He will be in charge of Mingming's healthcare work." As soon as the ambassador finished speaking, the middle-aged man who had just chatted with Zhang Su stood up and nodded to the other people in the office. After Lee Tayton sat down, the ambassador continued to arrange tasks. Next, the other deputy team leader is Zhang Su, and his task is to serve as Mingming's stand-in. Chapter 390 Zhang and number 039, Estonal 3 couplets. With a bang, the Weasley family's second flying car stopped in front of the burrow. The rear door of the car opened the moment the car landed. Mr. Granger jumped out of the car first, and then helped Mrs. whose legs were trembling. Hermione came out from the other side of the car, hurried around the car and supported her mother on the other side with the support of her husband and daughter. Mrs. Granger recovered after taking a few steps on the ground. The Weasley family's flying car is not so easy to adapt to. The Weasleys invited the Granger family to visit the burrow during this Christmas holiday. Since the last time the Grangers helped rescue Mr. Weasley, who was bitten by Voldemort's snake, the relationship between the two families has been on the rise, continue to heat up. After exchanging pleasantries, Mr. Weasley, together with the eldest and second children in the family, accompanied the Grangers to chat in the living room. Not long after, Black and Lupin, who came to accompany Harry, also came to the living room. Hermione, on the other hand, ran to help in the kitchen, because the Weasley family's third to seventh children, Harry, and the girlfriends of the eldest and second children, were all in the kitchen helping Mrs. Weasley prepare dinner tonight. It's just that Hermione was stunned for a while when she saw Charlie's girlfriend. She didn't expect that the other party was an acquaintance. "We meet again, the smartest little witch at Hogwarts," Tanya said to Hermione. Hearing Tanya boasting about herself so much, Hermione felt a little hot in the face. Nice to meet you, Tomanova. Hermione replied in surprise. I didn't expect Charlie's girlfriend to be you. We didn't expect it either, said Clemens Posey, who was sitting preparing the bread. I heard Delacour mention her before, but when I saw her come back with Charlie, I was shocked. Just call me Tanya like everyone else. Tanya said while handling the tomatoes in her hand. When Charlie came to our school to select players that day, we didn't expect to meet someone we knew so far away. Man, after drinking too much, he became my boyfriend. Hermione, Harry, and Ron shuddered at the same time. Everyone had heard a little bit about the fact that she drank Carm at the Christmas ball, and that she often had a drink with Zhang Su, and the three of them I also heard Zhang Su say, in my eyes, she smells of alcohol far more than lust. Harry, who was dealing with Brussels sprouts, greeted Hermione. Hermione, where have you been these few days? I accompanied my father and mother to the London Zoo to see the giant panda that just came back. Hermione said excitedly. The giant panda was hijacked when it just returned to the UK. Fortunately, it was less than 2 hours later. It was rescued successfully and was not injured. It started to pick up guests at the zoo after resting for a day, and the giant panda house in the zoo was full of people that day. What's so interesting about giant pandas? Ron said while peeling potatoes with a knife. If you want to see it, let Zhang transform and see enough. Then can you feed fruit to the transformed Zhang? Hermione said after squinting at Ron. If you dare to make this request to him, I'm afraid you will be hung on the top of the astronomy tower by him. Ron shrank his neck and said, then I might as well let Professor Snape wash my hair, at least I can die more quickly. And NBSP, perhaps Jair and Lily can let Zhang do this. Harry on the side continued, didn't we see Zhang transform into a giant panda and play with their two sisters that night? Who are Jair and Lily? Tanya put down the tomato at some point, holding a pen and a notebook in her hand. This news is very valuable. Harry just wanted to explain the identities of Jair and Lily, but Fred covered his mouth, and then George said to Tanya, who was taking notes, maybe Professor Scarlet can do it too. Professor Scarlet, this news is worthless. Tanya said while recording, are there any other girls in Hogwarts who often hang out with Zhang? Harry and Ron glanced at each other, and decided to turn a blind eye to this question. If someone Zhang knew that they were making a small report, the end would definitely not be much better. Hermione glanced at Tanya, who was writing with a smile, then seemed to remember something, and said, speaking of Professor Scarlet, I saw her at the London Zoo that day. She donated to the zoo and was allowed to take pictures of that giant panda for a day in the giant panda enclosure. I happened to be selected as a lucky audience that day. When I went into the garden to feed the giant panda with apples, Professor Scarlet helped me take a lot of photos with a giant panda. She said that I would post the photos after school started. Give me. Maybe all I saw before was the transformed Zhang. I saw that giant panda that day and thought it was very similar to the transformed Zhang, especially its expression. Maybe that giant panda was Zhang pretending to be, Ron said beamingly. Maybe something happened to the real panda when it was hijacked, and then they made Zhang transform to replace the giant panda. Ron's guess filled the kitchen with gleeful laughter. Ginny threatened Ron to report the matter to Zhang, and Ron was so panicked that he bought Ginny after promising a lot of benefits. At the same time, Zhang Su, who was eating and chatting with a group of friends in a box of a restaurant thousands of miles away, suddenly turned his head away and sneezed hard. The people present tonight are basically friends who are familiar with each other in the same circle, and none of them have family members, so there is no taboo for everyone to make jokes. Zhao Zhao, who was sitting next to Zhang Su, smiled and said to him, the sisters-in-law must be missing you. It seems that we have to put Boss Zhang back in advance, otherwise we will not be able to blame the sister-in-laws. Zhang Su glared at him, and said, it's fine if you delete the word, otherwise you have to be responsible for helping me to fill in the word. At this time, Su Tenqian, who was sitting opposite Zhang Su, said, you don't need our help if you want to make up. If you didn't hide in the Golden House in the UK, why didn't you return to China 3 days after the holiday started? Zhang Su's face changed, and he said seriously, this time, I came back late because I had to perform a confidential mission. Could it have something to do with the fact that the giant panda was obviously hijacked? Said another person at the dinner table, it seems that the time is just right. No, don't talk nonsense. Zhang Su said with a serious face. Chapter 391 Christmas at the Burrow. The morning of Christmas was white, and a small snowfall covered the ground outside the burrow with a white carpet. and the tops of the burrow and the black tents several stories high were also dotted with clusters of piles. Snow. Since there were many guests coming to the burrow for Christmas this time, Blake moved his tent here for everyone to live in. After the guests who lived in the tent got up, they stepped on the snow just below their feet and came to the living room of the burrow. They chatted while unwrapping Christmas presents. Suddenly, the conversation in the living room stopped suddenly after a while. Tanya, who was competing with a cubic wooden box with a side length of about 1 foot, looked up and found that everyone in the living room was looking at her curiously and without saying a word. He asked confusedly, "What's the matter, everyone?" Mrs. Weasley said to Tanya, "What are you doing, dear?" Tanya found that everyone noticed her abnormality, so she put the wooden box on the coffee table and explained to everyone, "This is a gift from Fu Rong and Zhang Su, but the one outside is the box is set with magic. I need to break the magic on it to open the box and take out the gift inside. No wonder the gift you prepared for him this year also has nearly 50 forbidden magic on the packaging," Charlie said to his girlfriend. "That's right," Tanya replied. "If he can't crack the magic, he won't be able to take out the gift I gave Fleur inside. You young people really know how to play." Although Mr. Granger doesn't know magic, he still understands the way that Dongnia and Zhang Su play against each other. "This is one of Professor Flamel's favorite Christmas games," Tanya said. Nicole May Hermione asked in surprise. The maker of the Sorcerer's Stone. Hermione still remembered that she, Harry and Ron searched for this name for a long time many years ago, and when they asked Zhang Su said that he had chatted with this person not long ago. "That's right," Tanya replied. "Professor Nicholas has taught alchemy at Boxburton's for hundreds of years, and some of his little habits have always influenced us." Clemens Posey, another graduate of Boxburton sitting in the living room, said while recalling something, "Professor Flamel likes to make this kind of box that can only be opened after solving puzzles or cracking magic, so Boxburton the students of Spartan often use such boxes when they send gifts to each other. When I was still at Boxburton, I heard Mrs. Maxime say that Professor Flamel and Mr. Dumbledore also exchanged Christmas presents and the various spells and mechanisms are set on the box, and sometimes Professor Flamel cracked Mr. Dumbledore's spell more happily than he received the gift. People from Hogwarts are apparently interested in Boxburton's customs. This box can only be opened by yourself?" Lupin asked curiously. "Not necessarily," Tanya replied. "Unless the two of you need to rely on this method to compete or duel, you can ask your friends to help." Clemens Posey also asked, "Is the magic key setup difficult?" The corner of Tanya's mouth twitched, and she replied, "It's not very difficult, but the angle of cracking is sometimes very tricky. When I opened the gift he gave me last year, I needed to answer questions about Taylor's formula, homogeneous equation, and Euler's equation. Except for the Granger couple, everyone present was stupefied. They didn't know what these things were. Maybe Professor Scarlet knows how to solve these problems," Harry said weakly. "These questions are very simple knowledge for her," Tanya said. Back then, Tanya and Scarlet had a good relationship, so Tanya knew her a little bit. "So is it difficult to solve the magic this time?" Charlie asked. "How about we all solve it together?" Tanya thought for a while and replied, "I just solved the simple problems on the outermost layer, and the rest can be treated as a game together." Tanya took out her wand and tapped the wooden box a few times, and then a 3D image was projected above the wooden box. In the middle of the image was a blue ball surrounded by a circle of fragments of different colors. "This was made by Zhang," Fred asked in disbelief with his eyes wide open. "If I know such magic, I will definitely make a fortune." Mr. Granger, who also opened his eyes wide, said in a daze. Tanya glanced at Fred and asked, "Didn't Zhang tell you that he has already completed Boxburton's alchemy course?" Then she said to Mr. Granger, "I heard that he has been researching the technology of using magic to realize 3D holographic projection. Is this a puzzle?" Harry on the side was already a little excited. He thought the box was like Dudley's video game console. "I think so," Tanya replied. "Most of the questions he asks are like this, and they have nothing to do with the knowledge of magic, so sometimes it is a headache." "Can I try it?" Mr. Granger became excited. "This looks like putting together countries on the earth. I think I can do it." Tanya said to the eager Mr. Granger, "No problem, you can ask Hermione to help." Dongnia saw his routine clearly when she unlocked the magic on the box that Zhang Su sent last year. The magic on the box is not so much a seal, but a game console that the whole family can play together at that time. The reason why the knowledge of advanced mathematics was needed to unlock the magic was because her father was a professor of mathematics, which obviously required a neat and happy family. She told Fleur a long time ago that she would ask for leave to go to England with Charlie to meet her parents during Christmas. It seems that Zhang Su made this game console for her and the Wheel Eyes to play together after hearing the news. If it hadn't been for Mr. Granger's unexpected cutoff, the problem of spelling the world map should be prepared for Mr. Weasley, who is very interested in Muggle time. With the title of Cracking the Magic, which is actually a gift for playing games, Dongia became more and more sure of her guess. Because the second level of the game is to simulate making a big meal, this level is obviously prepared for Mrs. Weasley. As a result, this level was cleared by Mrs. Weasley and Mrs. Granger together. At this time, everyone who was familiar with Zhang Su knew his thoughts and joined in one after another. Even Black, who had been at loggerheads with Zhang Su, played a tandem motorcycle race with Harry. Inside the burrow, people playing and watching were unknowingly addicted to it, and lunch was just Mrs. Weasley making some sandwiches and everyone dealt with them casually. Until the afternoon, Percy solved a very difficult reasoning problem. Scrimgeour controlled an aura to solve a group of dark wizards in a castle. It opened automatically with a sound, and then everyone realized that this was a Christmas gift from Zhang Su and Fu Rong to Dong Naya. "Thank you very much, Minister." Tanya thanked Scrimgeour. Originally brought Percy as a cover, intending to talk to Harry Potter, but was pulled in by Mr. Weasley to play with the Minister of Magic Scrimgeour, only then recovered from the game, and then said to Tanya "I am glad to be at your service, beautiful lady." At this time, everyone focused their attention on the inside of the box, and saw that inside the box was a palm-sized ornate French classical-style jewelry box. Tanya stepped forward to open the jewelry box, only to see that the jewelry box grew bigger after opening, and became a large 1-foot square jewelry box, with a piece of bottom-pressed jewelry placed in each grid inside. Tanya could tell that these jewelry were all chosen by Fu Rong, who was very familiar with her. Last time, after Zhang Su received a large pile of French antiques from Nicholas May, he and Fu Rong did an inventory during the summer vacation. In addition to various furniture, they also accidentally found a large pile of antiques in a box. Jewelry with obvious French royal style. Later, Fu Rong remodeled one of the jewelry boxes, and then selected a set of exquisite and gorgeous jewelry to give to her best friend, and this set of jewelry was aimed at her best friend's use at the wedding. Just looking at the vacant space in the jewelry box, Charlie couldn't help smiling wryly. Bill on the side patted his second brother on the shoulder, and said to him in a low voice, "Don't worry, you will have a share of the store's dividends in a few days." Percy walked to the other side of Charlie, patted his second brother on the shoulder, and said in a low voice, "Why don't I lend you my dividend first?" At this moment, the twin brothers came over and said to Percy in a low voice, "Why don't a purchase price of the Auror office increase by, % from us? That way we can help Charlie a bit." Charlie pointed to Clemens Posey, who was appreciating the jewelry in the jewelry box with his chin, and whispered to Bill, "You better mind yourself, I'm afraid you will have no peace tonight." Ron looked at the girls who were appreciating jewelry, and at the brothers who laughed inexplicably. When he was about to join his older brothers, he was chased away by the older brothers on the grounds that he was playing while a minor. Ron, who didn't understand the situation, walked to Harry's side, and heard Black looking at Ginny, who was looking at a necklace with Hermione, and said to Harry, "Don't worry, I will take you with you when the time comes. Go to the Black family vault, where you can take your pick." Harry nodded reflexively there. Like Ron, he still didn't know what the scene in front of him meant to him. At this moment Scrimgeour came over and said to Harry, "May I speak to you alone, Mr. Potter?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392. Data number 039, Gathering of Comrades. The cooked duck flew up. A fat duck that had been boiled in boiling water until it was half ripe flew up from the pot. After shaking the pot a few times to get rid of the excess water inside and outside the body, it continued to fly to the side, and then flew to a porcelain plate over the sky. As the Shenfang native duck smasher passed by without a shadow, a whole native duck turned into a uniform piece of meat in just a few seconds, and then gently fell into the plate. The oil in the pot has boiled, and the pitted lemons that have been marinated for many years, the chopped sour onions, sour ginger, and sour peppers are poured into the oil pan at once. After the ingredients are fragrant, the duck meat is also poured into the pot and stir-fried. After a few minutes, a plate of fragrant pink lemon duck is out of the pan. Through the kitchen window, Zhang Su took a look at Wang Ke, who was lying on his stomach enjoying the warm winter sun in the yard, and sighed that this guy is quite laid back. When Gao Feng's lemon duck was brought to the restaurant by Zhang Su's mother, Zhang Su turned on the pressure cooker on the other side of the kitchen. The pig's feet, which weren't always cooked, flew up from the pressure cooker. After removing the bones with a bone-flesh separation spell, the pig's bones with a little meat flew out of the window and landed on the dinner plate beside Wang Ke. Hearing the movement of the dinner plate, Wang Ke, who was basking in the sun, immediately stood up and started attacking the bones. The skin and meat of Huangjiang Xiong pigs are tenderer than ordinary pigs, so the cooking time is shorter. After a while, the whole pig's foot was sliced into thin slices by Shanfeng Duolian for Wu Ying. After making the dipping sauce with sand ginger, sesame oil, balsamic vinegar, and cooking wine, this plate of white-cut pig's feet was also brought to the table. Different from cutting ducks and pork meat into pieces, cutting the whole pig's knuckles into thin slices with Shenfeng Wu Ying is a test of the magic spell's meticulous operation. Zhang Su dares to say that Snape has already left behind by him. Zhang Su thinks that he is inferior to Snape in terms of penetrating power compared to hitting wood with a sharp edge without shadow, but in terms of fine manipulation, according to Dobby, who did not want to be named, Snape secretly destroyed a basket of potatoes in the kitchen and then had no choice. Do not admit that he is not as good as Zhang Su in this regard. After the oven dinged, Fu Rong, who had just made French fried foie gras, took out the baking tray, then put the grilled fish and ingredients into the tray, and after casting a bone-flesh spell on the grilled fish, bring the two freshly prepared dishes to the restaurant. There were many guests sitting in the living room next to the restaurant. They were all old comrades in arms of Zhang Su's father, Zhang Xiandong. Zhang Su could hear the bragging together in the kitchen. Today is the second day of 1997. Zhang Su and Fu Rong took advantage of the New Year's Day holiday to go home, and they happened to catch up with Zhang Xiandong and his old comrades in arms gathering. Some of their former comrades in arms are still serving, and some have retired to work in various walks of life. It just so happens that during this period of time, several of you are staying in the same city due to business or personal matters. When you surf the internet, you will gather together in the group, so let's take this opportunity to get together. Originally, they wanted to find a restaurant to have dinner together, but later they didn't know who suggested it. How about we all remember the bitterness and sweetness together, and relive the big pot meal of the army? As one of the landowners, Zhang Xiandong wanted to show off his son, so he took them to Zhang Su's affordable villa, planning to have a big pot meal in the garden. Zhang Su, who heard the news, almost spit out his old blood. While lamenting that these middle-aged people can play, he planned to simply buy a box of compressed biscuits and boil a pot of boiled water, so that they can recall their bitter memories. But when he saw that among his father's comrades in arms who came back to the party, there was Li Shenshao, who taught him how to transform into an animagus, and Liu Lei, who killed a large number of Dementors with him in England not long ago. After Lei Uncle Liu, I was embarrassed to carry out the box of compressed biscuits. During the conversation, Zhang Su learned that Li Shenshao came to the zoo here to see a doctor for giant pandas with the staff of the base, and Liu Lili was on vacation after returning from his mission last month. So Zhang Su said that he took care of the meal. So after Zhang Su and Fu Rong had been busy, a feast of local flavors and French dishes was freshly baked. At noon, everyone sat in front of the dining table and looked at the sumptuous dishes on the table. Everyone lamented that Lao Zhang had a good son and daughter-in-law. At the dining table, Zhang Su raised his wine glass and toasted Li Shenshao. I would like to offer a toast to Teacher Li. Thank you for teaching me. After clinking glasses with Zhang Su, Li Shenshao said, "You are talented. You can teach me a little bit, and you can master it. It is much better than your father. If things don't go well in the future, you can consider coming to work at our base." Everyone here knew what Li Shenshao was doing, and all made fun of him. On the other hand, Zhang Su was smiling, and said in his heart that one job like that was enough. After the joke was over, one of the people present said to Zhang Su, "Xiao Zhang, don't underestimate your teacher Li." When he was on the front line, he turned into a mouse and got into the tunnel opposite. After finding the arsenal, he went inside using local materials to make a time bomb. He can eliminate all the enemies in the tunnel by himself. A hero doesn't mention being brave back then. Li Shenshao waved his hands modestly and said, but the proud expression on his face betrayed his heart. Then others talked about how he was almost caught and stewed by the hungry and red-eyed enemies in the tunnel. Then Zhang Su raised his wine glass to toast Liu Lili again and said, "Uncle Liu, I would like to toast you again. Thank you for lending a helping hand last time." "Why, old squad leader, you went to England and saved him?" Zhang Xiandong asked his old squad leader suspiciously. It is not a secret that there is a team going to the UK this time, but many details have not been released yet. Moreover, Zhang Su only told Fu Rong what happened that night, and he hadn't had time to mention it to his parents. Liu Lili said to Zhang Xiandong, "It's nothing, it's just that one night your son was chased by a group of big-headed flies like a grandson. When we received your son's distress signal, we rushed over to cooperate with your son and chased those big-headed flies away. They were all shot to death. The veterans present, whether they are still in service or retired, all know that everyone has a habit when discussing battles, that is, the easier the task, the more bragging, because if you don't brag, you won't look good, and the more difficult the task the more understatement, so that you can appear to be able to handle difficulties with ease." So everyone asked the two parties about the situation at that time. Next, Zhang Su will introduce the morphological characteristics and living habits of Dementors. As a result, the topic at the dinner table became how to fight Dementors. Due to the tricky characteristics of Dementors, everyone's discussions were very intense, and new plans were constantly thrown out and rejected. After a while, Zhang Su noticed that there was a person sitting there frowning and thinking about something, and didn't participate in the discussion. "Uncle Nangguang, what are you thinking?" Zhang Su asked curiously. Nangguang Zhao frowned and said, "I'm thinking, if this kind of Dementors come to our country and then attack ordinary people who can't see them, then how should we approach the science show to get over this matter?" Chapter 393 This flag calls uninvited guests. Due to the existence of Zhang Su, what was originally a gathering among old comrades in arms to recall the glorious years in the past turned into Comrade Xiao Zhang's report meeting for studying abroad. Zhang Su's experience in the past few years can be considered wonderful, and the dangers he has experienced are sometimes no less than a small-scale battle. The veterans present commented on Zhang Su's actions from time to time, but there were not many praises, and most of them were criticisms and education for his mishandling. It has to be said that professionals are different, and they can often find out some mistakes made by Zhang Su and the others in the first time. A banquet just ended after the focus interview, and everyone left. Judging by the posture, they still have to find a place for a second round. After Zhang Su checked the sausages drying in the yard, he carried Wake, who had been sleeping in the yard, back into the room. In January, the temperature at Zhang Su's house dropped sharply after the sun went down at night. If the old Wonke sleeps in the yard again, he may get sick. Wonke used to be the watchdog of the pharmaceutical factory, but now he retired when he was too old to run fast. Zhang Su's grandfather brought him back to raise him. It's just that Zhang Su's grandpa and grandma went on a trip again these days, so Zhang Su took care of it for 2 days. After putting Wonke on the thick cushion specially prepared for it, Zhang Su went up to the second floor and returned to his room. In the room, Fu Rong was sitting in front of the computer and was chatting with people barely proficiently. Zhang Su glanced. One window belonged to Gabriel, and the other window belonged to Dongnia. The speed of the internet these days is still a bit poor, and the video chat is not very easy to use, otherwise it will be possible to make a video call. What Zhang Su didn't know was that just before he entered the door, Fu Rong closed a chat window, and there was only one sentence in that window: "The photo has been sent to the mailbox, and I will kill the cat for more pictures, don't let him know. Is there anything fun to do?" Zhang Su walked behind Fu Rong and asked while helping her shoulder. "Gabri has caught a cold again," Tanya said. "Thank you for the box." Fleur replied after twisting her body a few times and adjusting her sitting posture to a comfortable position. Gabriel didn't sneeze while casting the spell this time. Zhang Su asked. Fiorin didn't answer, but just sent the question to Gabriel, and half a minute later, the other side sent an emoji showing her teeth and claws wanting to choose someone to eat. A few years ago, Gabriel, who had a cold before Christmas, became colorful because she sneezed while casting a spell, which made Zhang Su use it to laugh at her until now. After chatting with Gabriel through Fiorin, Zhang Su left, leaving time for the two sisters. During this vacation, Zhang Su has been living the life of the Jiu Sam society, going to bed at, in the morning and getting up at, in the morning. Except for the first day back from the vacation, Fu Rong never mentioned Zhang Su's experience at Hogwarts in the following days, which made Zhang Su feel a little strange. However, during this period of time, the superficial situation was a bit strangely calm, and there was nothing to ask. It's just that Zhang Su knows how fierce the calculations are under this situation, and they are all waiting for the moment when the powder keg is ignited. While Zhang Su was lying on the sofa holding a novel to pass the time and thinking about it, Fu Rong, who had finished chatting, came over and sat on his lap. Fu Rong turned sideways and put her hand against Zhang Su's chest, asked, "What are you thinking? I haven't turned the page in 2 or 3 minutes. Donia wants you to be a bridesmaid. The bridesmaid looks better than the bride, isn't that bad?" Zhang Su saw the word bridesmaid on the screen just now. Fu Rong leaned down and lay on Zhang Su's body, with her head resting on his chest, and said, "She doesn't dare to ask me to be a bridesmaid. She is looking for Gabriel. I let her and Gabriel negotiating terms. I think Gabrielle will definitely open her mouth," Zhang Su said. Fu Rong didn't talk to her, she just stretched her waist, then took Zhang Su's face with both hands, and said, "We'll be here next year." "Yes." Zhang Su rubbed his face on Fu Rong's ring-wearing hand. For the next time, the two of them didn't talk anymore, only Fu Rong's hand caressed Zhang Su's face from time to time. After coming here for a long time, Fu Rong suddenly asked, "The mysterious man should be solved by then, right?" "Yes," Zhang Su replied. Zhang Su is not the kind of person who calls himself home when Voldemort is still alive. Maybe Harry Potter is, but he is definitely not. Many times, Zhang Su really wanted to take out a piece of time turner that he hacked, risking his injuries to go to the future to see how Voldemort died, so as to give himself a reassurance. It's just that he can't guarantee that he will really die if he dies like this. The newborn calf was not afraid of tigers many years ago and ended up playing with it. As a result, now that he has a family and a job, he is cowarded at the last moment every time. Moreover, Zhang Su even suspected that someone from the future was watching him secretly, and even intervened in some things secretly. Because he has always felt a sense of disobedience, as well as some too coincidental things he encountered. Zhang Su once mentioned this matter to Mr. Zhao, and later Mr. Zhao said that you are just too nervous, and you do too little homework and think too much. Just when Zhang Su was thinking wildly again, Fu Rong said, "It doesn't matter if the mysterious person is eliminated or not, as long as you are safe and sound. Don't worry." Zhang Su stroked Fu Rong's long silver hair. "The mysterious man will definitely be eliminated in a year, and then we will get married in France." Zhang Su, who had planted the flag for himself, didn't care about it. If it really didn't work, he could force the development of the matter to the plot, and then arrange for Harry and Voldemort to fight twice. It's just that the development of the matter was one accident after another. Zhang decided that he would not randomly plant those flags that would kill people in the future. When Zhang Su, who had finished his vacation, came out of Heathrow Airport and got into a taxi to go to the Leaky Cauldron, a tall figure in a black robe and hat suddenly opened the door on the other side and sat in the car beside Zhang Su. "Sir, where are you going?" After the taxi driver yelled twice, Zhang Su, who looked at the uninvited guest in disbelief, realized this. Then Zhang Su said to the driver, "Can you introduce a coffee shop that is a bit remote by the Thames River and has no customers at this time, sir?" Such requests from passengers are commonplace for taxi drivers, so he started the car and took the passenger to a garden-style cafe on the banks of the Thames River in the west suburbs of London. Chapter 394 The best way to solve problems is to leave the problems to others. (2) After Dumbledore raised his head from the pensieve, he sat behind his desk and stared blankly for half an hour. He couldn't help having a headache now, and even his balls, which he hadn't used for many years, felt pain. At this moment, he even wanted to cast a forgetting spell on himself and Zhang Su, so that everyone could forget about this matter together, so that he would not have to worry about it. If I had known earlier, I would have pretended not to be in the office just now and not let Zhang Su in. It's a pity that neither the Wizarding World nor the Muggle Society regretted selling the medicine, otherwise he would definitely buy several caddies at a time and eat it. Dumbledore's pet Phoenix looked at the two people in a daze, not knowing what they were doing, so he lowered his head to fix the nails on his paws. Also confused were the past principals in the oil paintings on the wall. At the moment they were quietly pretending to be ordinary oil paintings, but they all followed Dumbledore's every move in unison. In the principal's office, against the background of the beeping sound of the magical items on the shelves and in the cabinet, the whole office was immersed in an eerie silence. In the end, it was Dumbledore who broke the silence. He said, "Zhang, what are you going to do with this matter?" Zhang Su, who was sitting across from Dumbledore's desk, was still in a state of bewilderment at the moment, although he had thought of what would happen when he got on the Hogwarts dirt train for the first time and met his first classmate 6 years ago. This matter, but he never imagined that this matter would eventually fall on his own head. After hearing Dumbledore's question, Zhang Su straightened his face and said seriously, "For this matter, my approach is to hand it over to the principal to solve it." Cyrillic letter D. For the first time in so many years, Zhang Su saw Dumbledore shaking his head so vigorously, and his long beard trembled accordingly. Then Loudang said, "He entrusted you to solve this problem because he trusted you, so you should solve it." No. Zhang Su shook his head while waving his hands. "In Europe, your reputation is much better than mine, and your wisdom and contacts are beyond my reach, so I'll let you settle this matter." Issue the past principals on the wall in the principal's office just watch the two people, the old and the young, playing ping pong in order to push something away. It's just that these principals are very puzzled. What is this troublesome matter brought by Zhang Su? Even Dumbledore finds it so troublesome. It's just that the two parties present didn't say a word about the content of this matter, and all communication was resolved by the pensieve. This matter is too sensitive, and Zhang Su has to treat it with such caution. If one is not handled properly, it will cause a devastating blow to the cooperation between him and Dumbledore. So Zhang Su didn't explain the matter to Dumbledore in words, but directly let him watch a movie that happened in a coffee shop by the Thames. After watching the movie, Dumbledore was no less shocked than Zhang Su, one of the protagonists, because what happened in it was beyond his expectation for so many years. The two argued with each other for more than half an hour, and found that the other party did not show any signs of letting go, so they simply put this matter on hold, and there is still a lot of time to solve it in the future. Zhang Su withdrew his memory and left the principal's office, deciding not to think about it until the end of the college entrance examination. Today was the day when Hogwarts students returned to school after their holidays, but most of them were sharing their holiday stories with their classmates in the common room of their colleges, and there was almost no one in the corridors. Of course, Peeves, who was trapping a piece of armor standing in the hallway, was not a human being. In the empty hallway, the trapped Peeves danced, and then waited for Filch to be startled by the falling armor as he passed by. Just then, Peeves heard a voice that frightened him. "Peeves, are you going to patrol this secret passage today?" Peeves immediately rushed to Zhang Su, who was at the other end of the corridor, saluted Zhang Su and said, "I'll go right away, Mr. Zhang." Now Dumbledore and Zhang Su have set up many traps in the secret passages that enter Hogwarts, waiting for the Death Eaters to step in again, but usually checking those secret passages has become a big problem. An NBSP, so Zhang Su asked Peeves to check the traps in the secret passages every night on the condition that he allowed Peeves to play pranks at will as before. After Peeves left, Zhang Su didn't care about the armor he had tampered with in the corridor, and turned around to leave. At this time, Zhang Su heard a girl humming a song from the stairs, and from the singing, she could tell that the girl was quite happy. More than half an hour later, Zhang Su and Scarlet, who were about to fight, were called by Dumbledore to the school infirmary. They were both startled to see Hermione lying unconscious on the bed. "What happened to Granger?" Scarlet asked. Professor McGonagall said anxiously, "Just now Filch heard a loud noise in the corridor, and when he rushed over, he found Miss Granger unconscious in the corridor. Mr. Potter and Mr. Weasley said she left the common room to see Miss Scarlet. Actually, you can also call me Miss," someone whispered. Just now Dumbledore asked about the portrait near that corridor. Mr. Zhang should have been the only one who passed that corridor before that. So do you have any clues? Scarlet looked at the paper bag on the bedside table of the hospital bed, and said, "I made an agreement with Granger, let her come to me to pick up some materials after school starts." Professor McGonagall and Dumbledore glanced at each other. They had already read the paper bag full of math papers just now. Thinking about Hermione's habit of often asking professors for extra tutoring, this was right. Then the principal and vice principal looked at Zhang Su, who might have been there at the time, and saw that he was frowning at the moment, with a splitting headache. "Do you know something, Zhang?" Dumbledore asked, frowning. Zhang Su nodded, pulled out his wand and called Peeves. A few minutes later, Peeves appeared in the ward, and he said to Dumbledore, "After my inspection, everything underground is normal." Zhang Su ignored his inspection report and said to him, "Peeves, tell me what happened before you went underground for inspection." Peeves had already seen Hermione lying on the hospital bed at this time, and then looked at the battle in front of him, knowing that he had caused trouble. Peeves yelled, "I just want that armor to hit Filch," and sprinted across the wall. But she has signs of being hit by the stunning curse. Madame Pomfrey, who had been standing beside Hermione's hospital bed, said, "It may be that the curse on those armors rebounded." Zhang Su said with a wry smile. "What's that?" Madame Pomfrey asked. At this time, Dumbledore explained to her, "The armor in the castle has recently been upgraded. One of the functions is that it can rebound the curse that hits it, and it also has a function that it will automatically return to its original shape after falling to the ground." Then Dumbledore looked around at the people present, and said after heaving a sigh of relief, "It seems that what happened is that when Miss Granger passed by the armor manipulated by Peeves fell towards her. Then Miss Granger, who didn't have time to see clearly that it was the armor that was falling towards her, thought she was being attacked, and then cast a stun spell on the armor with her wand, only to be hit by the spell that bounced back. We only have to look at the last spell cast by Miss Granger's wand to see if that's the case." As soon as Dumbledore finished speaking, Professor McGonagall picked up Hermione's wand next to the paper bag on the bedside table, then raised his own wand with the other hand, and docked the two wands together. Under the action of the flashback spell, Hermione's wand sprayed a pattern of silver-white mist, and Professor McGonagall confirmed that the last spell Hermione's wand used was the stunning spell. At this time, Professor McGonagall also breathed a sigh of relief, and then said, "It seems that this is an accident caused by Peeves' prank, rather than someone invading Hogwarts." "That's good." Zhang Su said, "I'm still afraid that someone will enter Hogwarts pretending to be a student returning from vacation." Not long after, Hermione woke up under the effect of the potion that Madame Pomfrey had poured. After Dumbledore asked briefly and got an answer consistent with his reasoning, Madame Pomfrey kicked him out of the ward. Chapter 395. Is it a boy or a girl? There are some words that different people will interpret differently. Similarly, when the same sentence is spoken by the same person with different expressions, it will have different meanings in the eyes of others. After leaving the school infirmary, Zhang Su frowned and asked Professor McGonagall, who was walking beside him, "Professor McGonagall, I have a question about some traditions of the British family. Can I ask you for advice?" Professor McGonagall was a little surprised. Over the years of teaching at Hogwarts, she has been asked countless questions by students, from magic knowledge to whether she likes to eat fish, but this is the first time she has been asked about family traditions. But considering that Zhang Su is a foreigner, it makes sense to ask such a question. Thinking of this, Professor McGonagall replied, "What's your question?" Professor McGonagall, in the UK, if a woman cheats on her husband and has a child, and it is not easy for the child to use the father's surname, can the child use the mother's surname before marriage? Will the mother's old family accept the child? Zhang Su's expression was still very sad after he finished speaking, as if this was a very serious problem for him. After asking the question, Zhang Su continued to walk 2 or 3 steps forward, only then did he realize that Professor McGonagall hadn't followed. Zhang Su turned his head and found that Professor McGonagall stood there motionless, his hands under the robe were trembling, and the expression on his face was as if he saw the long hair like Dumbledore's beard growing on Voldemort's head. The good thing about talking to smart people is that sometimes smart people can infer other things from one example, and sometimes smart people can't stop thinking too much at once. Before Zhang Su had time to deny San Leon, Professor McGonagall asked with an incredulous look on his face, "Merlin's beard, who are you cheating on with?" This is something that Hogwarts has never had in all these years since its establishment. "It's not me, I don't think about it," Zhang Su hastily denied it. It's impossible not to deny it immediately. If Professor McGonagall's brain continues to run the train, maybe she will ask Zhang Su whether the other party is Ron's mother or Neville's grandma. Looking at Professor McGonagall's suspicious eyes, Zhang Su continued, "That person's name cannot be mentioned, and I promise the principal that I will not reveal the identities of both parties." The shocked expression on Professor Albus McGonagall's face was like seeing Voldemort doing a pole dance. How could he? Isn't he old? After seeing Professor McGonagall's performance, Zhang Su knew that she was thinking wrong again, and her reaction after thinking wrong was a bit beyond Zhang Su's expectation. But this time Zhang Su didn't correct Professor McGonagall. After all, the death of the principal doesn't kill the students, so it's better if the blame doesn't fall on him. After being shocked for a while, Professor McGonagall's thoughts returned to Zhang Su's original question. Professor McGonagall thought for a while, and then said, "If it's an ancient family, what they value is the inheritance of blood, and they won't mind taking back a child with the blood of their mother's blood back into the family." Zhang Su nodded. He had some ideas about how to deal with that matter during the process of playing table tennis with Dumbledore, but some details need to be improved. Is it a boy or a girl? Professor McGonagall's question interrupted Zhang Su's thinking. An NBSP, I don't know yet. Zhang Su replied, it is said that the expected date of delivery is around July. Professor McGonagall didn't say anything, and left in a hurry after bidding farewell to Zhang Su at the next intersection. Hermione was discharged from the hospital with Madame Pomfrey's approval early in the morning. After she left the school infirmary, she went directly to the cafeteria for breakfast. It is not uncommon in Hogwarts for her to lie down in the school infirmary for one night due to an accident like her, so no one took it as a big deal. The first day of school is always fun. Everyone continued to talk about the interesting things about the Christmas vacation while eating breakfast in the cafeteria. At the same time, they made a couple of jokes about Professor Dumbledore chasing and beating up a certain classmate early this morning. After all, a certain classmate was chased and beaten many times by professors, especially Professor Snape, and everyone gradually got used to it, and after the person who beat him became Professor Dumbledore this time, everyone was concerned about whether a certain classmate could escape to the Forbidden Forest smoothly. After all, the strength of Professor Dumbledore is unimaginable to the students. In the end, a student who failed to escape and was hung upside down on the top of the while doing pendulum movements is an example. After being put down by Filch 10 minutes before class, Zhang Su immediately rushed to the Charms classroom on the 4th floor. At the door of the classroom, Zhang Su saw Malfoy rushing over from the other side of the corridor. Just when Malfoy was about to open the door and enter the classroom, Zhang Su patted him on the shoulder and said to him, "Wait for me in the reading room at 11 o'clock tonight. If you don't come, you will bear the consequences." After finishing speaking, Zhang Su entered the professor 1 second before the class started, and Malfoy, who was stunned for a moment, was deducted 5 points by Professor Flitwick for being late. 6th-year wizards were thrilled with the annual apparition class registration form that appeared on the common room bulletin board this morning. Many students who were teased by relatives who can apparit since they were young have been waiting for this day for several years. They used to look forward to today's arrival every year when they saw this registration form. Being excited about other things in class means not paying attention, and the consequences of not paying attention in Charms class are somewhat serious. Seamus Finnegan, who had watered Professor Flitwick for flailing his wand, was copying "I'm a wizard, not a stick-wielding baboon." While copying sentences on the parchment, he turned his head and asked Zhang Su at another table next to him, "Can you apparit, Zhang?" "No." Zhang Su shook his head and said. "You can't do magic?" Seamus asked in surprise. "Yes," Zhang Su replied solemnly, "I'm not very good at all kinds of explosions." Zhang Su's answer made the students around him burst into laughter. In the 1996 edition of Hogwarts Survival Essentials, when Seamus Finnegan is waving his wand, you must either cast the Iron Armor charm on yourself, or stay away. Professor Flitwick walked towards the place where the laughter came from, and then Zhang Su hurriedly cast a spell of clear springs like water. A stream of water spurted out from his wand, and fell into a goblet on the table accurately. When the spell ended, the goblet was just filled. Professor Flitwick nodded with a smile, and left without saying anything. Regardless of ancient or modern things, good students always get some preferential treatment in the classroom. Chapter 396. Let's talk about compensation first. The reading room brought by Zhang Su was an independent institution in Hogwarts, and now it can be described as impressive. The weekly salons and debates spontaneously organized by the students are full of vitality. The book purchasing business that made Zhang Su his first pot of gold at Hogwarts has now brought a lot of private wealth to Zhang Chu, who inherited this business money at the time when the prospects were unclear. This place, one of the escape routes, had some functions including but not limited to ultra-long-distance teleportation, self-destruction, etc. Fortunately, it was not discovered by Dumbledore and other Hogwarts staff. Although Zhang Su has spent less time here than in the kitchen in the past few years, this place is still one of Zhang's private plots. At 11 o'clock in the evening, Malfoy carefully pushed open the door of the reading room, and then made a gesture of sticking his head in to see what was going on. Almost all the lights in the reading room went out, leaving only a few lights from the door to Zhang Su's special seat still on. Malfoy walked cautiously into the reading room with the door open, and fled the door as soon as he noticed something was wrong. Be careful. Malfoy knew what he was doing, enough to die several times at Hogwarts if things were leaked. Dumbledore couldn't keep him. Malfoy checked to see if there was anyone hiding around as he walked. If a group of Gryffindors jumped out from behind the bookshelf after the teacup in Zhang Su's hand fell to the ground and shattered, Malfoy would not be surprised at all. Very good, very cautious. Although being cautious does not necessarily bring success, it can avoid failure. Zhang Su poured a cup of hot tea for Malfoy, who was sitting opposite him, and said, "This is the only place in Hogwarts where you are not afraid, a place where people overheard." Malfoy learned the Oriental etiquette that his father had said, and tapped the table with the index finger and middle finger of his right hand a few times. It's just that because he was too nervous, he went a little too hard, and Zhang Su was afraid that he would break the table. Malfoy didn't notice this, and Zhang Su subconsciously glanced at the door. A mouse came in after Malfoy, but was immediately chased away by the automatic defense magic here. Then Zhang Su asked Malfoy, "One thing first, did you go home during the Christmas holiday?" Malfoy shook his head and said, "No." Zhang Su turned his head to look out of the window, and then said nonchalantly, "I don't care what you are going to do next, as long as you only go for Dumbledore and don't drag the people around me into the water, I can do whatever you want. Turn a blind eye to things." Zhang Su's words were like dropping a bomb in Malfoy's mind. Although he guessed that Zhang Su saw what he was doing in Hogsmeade that time, he didn't think Zhang Su would know who his target was. Malfoy subconsciously stood up and drew out his wand, pointing at Zhang Su to silence him, but at the next moment, his movement stopped. Zhang Su was still looking out of the window, but at some point a black sign appeared on his hand, and the sign was tumbling between his fingers. As he shook his fingers, on the front of the sign was the Death Eater's dark mark imprinted impressively. Malfoy was stunned. He looked at Zhang Su as if he saw Snape, who was washing his hair, standing with his head covered in foam. "Normal in front of myself? Why?" Malfoy asked in horror. He naturally recognized the black plaque in Zhang Su's hand, because it was proposed by his father, and his father also had one in his hand. Now that the Death Eaters are considered a big family, it is impossible for Voldemort to personally manage the people and affairs at the grassroots level, so the old horse didn't know where he made a mistake, so he suggested to Voldemort that seeing things as you see people, and then Voldemort also mistakenly agreed. This brand is no joke among grassroots Death Eaters these days. It's just that Malfoy never expected that Zhang Su would have such a thing in his hand. Although I heard at home that the Death Eaters had been planning to instigate rebellion or control Zhang Su, everyone knew how low the success rate was. After turning his head and seeing Malfoy's reaction, Zhang Su also complained fiercely in his heart, saying that when the old horse was planting sugarcane, he must have been learning Chinese while holding martial arts novels. When he saw Voldemort put the dark token in the middle of the table in the cafe that day, he almost choked to death on a cappuccino. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask, and don't say what you shouldn't say in the future, you know, Zhang Su said to Malfoy. Malfoy nodded subconsciously. Zhang Su naturally wouldn't tell Malfoy that the sign Voldemort gave him as a reward could only save his own life, and it couldn't be used to order other Death Eaters to do things like the old horse, otherwise he would have ordered Snape to be exonerated. I have done all the homework for my defense against the dark arts class. Let me tell you something first, are you going to give that opal necklace to me? Zhang Su asked while playing with the sign. Cold sweat broke out on Malfoy's forehead and back, and pills popped out of his mind. Let's forget about this matter, just express your apology casually, Zhang Su said generously. Malfoy naturally knew what Zhang Su meant by expressing my apologies. There was no other option other than gold coins. Zhang Su's greed for money was known to the higher-ups of the Death Eaters, and they also deeply understood it. Period. I have no money, and my family has no money. Malfoy managed to escape the words through his teeth. After so many years of claiming to be the eldest son of a rich family in the British magic world, the current liquidity of the family is almost exhausted, and the old house that accounts for the largest proportion of real estate has been burned down and has to be rebuilt. Now the Malfoy family can be said to be on the verge of bankruptcy. This contrast is not insignificant, big not to mention that half of the family's liquidity was cheated by the person sitting opposite. Then make an IOU first, and I won't count your interest for the sake of my classmates for many years. Zhang Su said, by the way, the burning of your house was not done by us, but by Russian wizards. Faced with a current situation where the enemy is strong and we are weak, Xiaoma had to bow his head and write an IOU on the parchment provided by Zhang Su and then stamp his fingerprints. Zhang Su nodded in satisfaction after seeing the number on the IOU. Malfoy thought that Zhang Su was looking for him tonight for this matter, but just as he was about to find an excuse to leave, Zhang Su said, okay, let's get down to business next. Malfoy looked at Zhang Su with a pale face, not knowing what he was talking about, but what Malfoy could be sure of was that he was definitely not here to help him complete the task. Chapter 397 It is good for the father to call the child this name. Do you know about the Black family where your mother was born? Zhang Su asked. Malfoy froze for a moment, then nodded. Then Zhang Su continued, now Sirius Black probably won't be able to marry a wife, so the Black family will be extinct. Then if Sirius Black dies, who can inherit the Black family? Malfoy didn't think that what Zhang Su said was such a serious question, but he had to answer it seriously. Malfoy naturally knew more about the knowledge of family inheritance and the twists and turns than Professor McGonagall. Malfoy didn't know why Zhang Su asked about the Black family, he just needed to answer truthfully, and after drinking tea to organize his language, he said, if the traitor Black is dead now, then you can inherit. I am the only one in the Black family. Malfoy knew that Zhang Su and Black had a bad relationship, so he made no effort to hide his contempt for his cousin in front of Zhang Su. Malfoy went on to say, although Black can give the property of the Black family to Potter as his own inheritance, it is impossible to give the surname of Black to Potter, even if Harry Potter changes his name to Harry Black, or it's not even Potter who let his descendants use Blake as a surname. If Potter dared to do this, he would become a big joke in the family, but the Weasley family would dare not marry their daughter to him. This is because Potter doesn't have the blood of the Black family. In our view, the inheritance of the family name is more important than the inheritance of property. Malfoy said at the end, with a gloating expression on his face, as if Harry Potter had really done something embarrassing and lost 18 generations of his ancestors. Hearing what Malfoy said, Zhang Su finally understood why Voldemort's grandfather and uncle were still showing off their surnames even though they were poor. Zhang Su asked, so, because your mother is from the Black family, you can also change your name to Draco Black to inherit the Black family, even if Sirius Black gave all of Black's old house and property to Harry Potter. Malfoy nodded and said, as long as I am 17 years old, I can change my surname, but once I am over 17 years old, I can't change it. The default rule of each family is to only recognize the blood of one generation, which means that my child cannot inherit the Black family. In theory, I still have 5 months to change my surname to Black, and then if I have 2 children, I can let them be named Black and Malfoy respectively. But this is impossible, unless Black dies within these 5 months. Otherwise, if I change my surname to Black, I will also be ridiculed by other families. And if I inherit the Black family, then I can ask Potter to hand over the old Black house and the Black family's vault at Gringotts. Zhang Su took a sip of tea, pondered for a while, and then asked, if I said yes, there is a lady who is married, but she has an affair with someone else, and has a child with someone other than her husband. Then can the child inherit the surname of the mother before marriage? As soon as Zhang Su finished his question, Malfoy jumped up after being stunned for 2 seconds. His legs hit the coffee table in front of him with a bang, and the teacup and teapot on the coffee table were almost knocked over by the shock. Period. To be reasonable, Malfoy is not stupid from the fact that Malfoy has been ranked 3rd in his grade all the year round. So as soon as Zhang Su's question was finished, coupled with the previous foreshadowing, Malfoy immediately realized that Zhang Su meant that his mother had cheated on him, and then he was going to be an older brother. In fact, this is also due to the problem with what Zhang Su said before. He only said that Malfoy's mother is from the Black family, and he asked Xiaoma if he went home during the holidays, which made Xiaoma think for a while. Oh, I forgot that I still have an aunt. Seeing Malfoy acting so excited, Zhang Su knew he had made a mistake. Sit down first, things are not what you think. Zhang Su picked up the teapot and poured tea for Malfoy, comforting him to sit down. After sitting down, Malfoy suddenly remembered something, and then asked with a look of shock, could it be you and C? Life is so beautiful, please don't seek your own death. Zhang Su interrupted Malfoy. Yes. Zhang Su put down the teapot, and then said to Malfoy, did you forget that you still have an aunt? This time Malfoy's thinking was back on track, and he asked incredulously, could it be Aunt Bella and my father? Greek letter sigma 3 degree O degree. Zhang Su sprayed Malfoy's face with a sip of tea. It's your big boss. Zhang Su said angrily. Then Zhang Su said to the stunned Malfoy, I didn't want to get involved in this matter, but the price offered by the mysterious man is high enough, and the child is innocent, so I agreed to help him with this favor. The only person who knows about this matter is you other than the person involved. This matter is also your family matter, so you should help. After hearing what Zhang Su said, Malfoy picked up the teacup, and there was no movement for a while. After a few minutes of silence, he said, "Okay." Zhang Su said while pouring tea into his teacup, "Not long ago, the mysterious man got a prophecy from a fortune teller to his children. It has to be said that the wizard's technology in the pregnancy test is good. Not only can it detect the gender of the twins, but it has not detected who came out first. So the mysterious man entrusted me to take the two of them back to their hometown to adopt them for a while after the children were born, and he even gave them money. But you have to know that if I rush back to China with my two newborn children, I will not be far from death. So I have to find an Englishman to help with this matter. But after much deliberation, I still think you are the most suitable in all aspects. So what are you going to do now?" Malfoy asked. Zhang Su drank the tea in his hand and said, "The children's due date is early July. My plan is to let the mysterious person foster the children in the orphanage first, and then you will go to the orphanage to pick them up at the end of August. Then you take the children to the city where my family is located, and I will meet you there. The most important point at that time is to say that you are my friend, and then you accidentally killed someone, and the people on both sides of the family do not recognize your child, so you come to me for help. Let me help you adopt your first child. Because your family has cooperated with our family before, your appearance will not surprise people in my family, and based on the happy cooperation before, our family will help you. Wait until the children are 11 and you come and take them back to school in the UK. In short, you must not let others think that the child has something to do with me." Malfoy thought for a moment, then said, "I think the plan works. Then you can report this plan to the mysterious person, and if he agrees, then do it." Zhang Su said. "But what does this plan have to do with the Black family?" Malfoy asked. "It's not the right time to let them be named Lestrange." Zhang Su said, "Otherwise, who do you want them to be named after? If you can persuade the father of the children to let the children be named after you, that's fine." Malfoy was speechless. He also knew that Voldemort's child could not have his father's surname, and taking his own surname was tantamount to courting death. "So you plan to give them the surname Black?" Malfoy said. "It's not impossible. At most, it will cause internal turmoil in the Black family for a while. At that time, my mother will support them, and this will not be a problem." Malfoy has seen many anecdotes about the family, and it is not uncommon in history for similar foreign illegitimate children to return strongly. And throughout the conversation, Malfoy deliberately ignored one thing, which was who would win in the next big battle. After discussing this matter, Malfoy planned to leave. At this time Zhang Su said to Malfoy, "By the way, the mysterious man is afraid that I won't find his children, so he asked me to name them a name that I will never forget. So I named them Alsace Black and Gianna Black. Does the name mean anything?" Malfoy asked. "Children with these two names are very kind to their father." Zhang Su replied. Chapter 398 Is it a man, Harry? When Harry Potter woke up, he found himself in a very strange space. He lay in the middle of a stone platform about 30 feet long and wide, surrounded by an endless dark space. Only floating on the platform where he was, there were light spots shining like fireflies. Harry stood up and shook his slightly dizzy head, then remembered that Malfoy had left the common room on the basement level, so he took the invisibility cloak and set out to follow Malfoy later. He saw Malfoy pushing the door and entering the reading room with Zhang Su, so he followed in quietly. As a result, as soon as he entered the reading room, he suddenly lost consciousness. When he woke up, he found himself in this strange space. "Zhang, are you there? What's going on?" Harry shouted using loud voice. Harry can be sure that his current situation must have something to do with Zhang Su. It's just that Harry didn't get any response after shouting a lot. Just when he was wondering, he heard a rumbling sound from above his head. VVVVV Cyrillic lettered L. Harry looked up, and saw that in the originally dark space above his head, a stone ceiling covered with dense spikes like the back of a hedgehog, which filled as far as he could see, was moving slowly. Pressed down firmly. If he didn't think of a way, Harry thought that he would definitely become a hornet's nest in 2 minutes. After trying a few spells that didn't work on the ceiling, Harry immediately ran to the edge of the platform and looked down. Standing on the edge of the platform, Harry saw a black platform floating about 3 stories below, and it was not difficult to jump over it. Without thinking too much, Harry took a few steps back and jumped onto the platform with a run-up. After landing safely, Harry had to be thankful that he had learned a slow-falling charm transformed from a levitating charm not long ago. Otherwise such a high height would have thrown him hard enough. Not long after Harry stood up, he heard the sound of rocks smashing above his head. He looked up and saw that the platform he was standing on just now was smashed into pieces by the ceiling, and then the pieces flew towards him, falling into the endless darkness below. Harry didn't know what was in that darkness, but instinct told him it was best not to jump. At this moment, a circle of big-headed monsters suddenly appeared around the platform where Harry was. For the current Harry, a few Dementors were not enough for his teeth. After dealing with those big-headed monsters, Harry walked to the side of the platform, and then saw another platform appear below. At this moment, Harry could already be sure that Zhang Su must have played a role in this inexplicable and dangerous space. Although he didn't think Zhang Su would kill him, he could still lie in the school infirmary for half a year or something. So Harry jumped onto the third platform without hesitation. After driving a transformed werewolf off the platform and into the black mist below, seeing that the ceiling covered with sharp thorns was not far away from him, Harry hurried to the edge of the platform, and found that the platform below him was covered with the same thorns as the ceiling, while the normal platform was far away from him. Itself is about 10 stories tall. Dividing line. After Malfoy left the reading room, Zhang Su also left, but he didn't go back to the dormitory to rest after he left, but came to classroom E13 on the 5th floor. The classroom was unoccupied except for Dumbledore's use on Friday nights to help the students with difficult assignments. When Zhang Su came to this classroom, Dumbledore was already sitting in front of the table, and Zhang Su sat down on the chair opposite Dumbledore after saying hello. At this time, a crystal ball the size of an electric rice cooker was placed on the table in front of the two of them, and what was shown in the crystal ball was the Harry Potter version of Hogwarts. "How is Harry doing?" Zhang Su asked. "He has already descended to the 3rd floor of number 20. Dumbledore replied, pushing the plate with a pile of cockroaches on the table towards Zhang Su. Zhang Su pretended not to see Dumbledore's movements, and then took out a piece of rainbow mousse and ate it himself. Dumbledore shrugged and pulled the cockroach pile to his face. At this moment, Harry, who is surrounded by zombies with an iron bucket on his head, is deeply sunken on the 4th floor platform of no fighting. "I don't know if you will go crazy. Do you think Harry can last till the end?" Zhang Su asked Dumbledore. "I don't think there should be much problem," Dumbledore said. After a while, Dumbledore said again, "If Harry can complete this challenge tonight, I will lend the resurrection stone to Harry as agreed." Zhang Su said. After the two finished speaking, they refocused on the crystal ball showing Harry's actions. At this moment, Harry, who had just wiped out all the zombies, was lying on the platform panting for breath. Just now, he rushed all the way to buy himself some rest time. It's just that as the number of layers increases, Harry has less and less time to rest. The consumption of physical strength and mana is one aspect. The most important thing is that he doesn't know where the final end is. A battle without knowing the goal and victory conditions is an extreme test of people's will, and it will make people feel like the long road is endless, so they give up because they can't see the goal. It didn't take long for Harry to see who wrote the place where the routine was too strong, and guessed that if he could die, he would definitely be able to go out, but what supported him at this time was that he wanted to see where his limits were. After a while, Zhang Su looked at Harry and asked Dumbledore when he was being chased by Fu Kun, "Professor, what opening conditions do you plan to set for this dungeon?" "I'm going to let the students who come out late at night to experience it," Dumbledore replied. Zhang Su introduced the meaning of copy to Dumbledore in a chat before, and Laodang was quite interested in this method of fighting monsters and upgrading. The result of Laodang's interest was that he pulled a group of people to start tinkering in the Hogwarts castle, and Zhang Su was assigned by him to write the copy script. And now Harry Potter, who is being chased around by a group of fallen demons shouting Locanishu, is the first copy experiencer of Hogwarts. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Period. Chapter 400. The Uncovered Harry. In the early morning of the next day, because Harry went to bed too late and was physically and mentally exhausted, he obviously lacked sleep when he got up the next morning. Inside the basin. Although Harry was not late because he fell asleep at the cafeteria table with the help of Ron and Hermione, he did something like snoring in Transfiguration class, which made the furious Professor McGonagall almost die because of high blood pressure. Enter the school infirmary. Originally, Zhang Su found out that Harry was asleep and wanted to find an excuse to report to Professor McGonagall that he was sick and then sent him to the school infirmary to catch up on sleep. But before Zhang Su raised his hand, Harry's classmates snored coming. Another consequence of Harry's snoring in class was that he originally planned to find some time at night to find Zhang Su to learn something about the gems hanging around his neck, but he was punished by Professor McGonagall and confined in confinement. He was dealing with various things in his office, which made him postpone his search for Zhang Su. On the evening of the last Friday in January, Harry was in the potions classroom helping Professor Slughorn with the fresh herbs that Professor Sprout had sent to him. If it was in the past, confinement to help the potions professor with his work would be the greatest punishment for Harry. There had been a change of professors in this classroom this year, and Harry didn't know if that was good or bad for him. Slughorn's penchant for good students was perfectly mirrored in Harry. The mother and son's two preferences overlapped, as Harry excelled in class with the help of tips from second-hand textbooks, reminding Slughorn of the ingenious girl in this classroom all those years ago. This double preference has brought more and more preferences. In the end, Slughorn's preference for Harry even reached the level of pampering. After Slughorn learned that Harry was confined by Professor McGonagall, he applied to Professor McGonagall for nearly 8 floors of Harry's confinement time. And in the potions classroom, Slughorn wasn't so much punishing Harry for his labor as giving him a lesson. And Harry, who performed well in class relying on the wisdom of the Half-Blood Prince, exposed his weakness of insufficient foundation when faced with superclass knowledge. Whenever Harry made mistakes here and there, Slughorn always acted helplessly. At this time, Harry, who made another mistake, was lying on his side in pain on a desk, and Slughorn was holding a large teapot with a slender spout and pouring potion into one of Harry's nostrils. After the potion controlled by the magic on the teapot flowed from Harry's nostrils into his lungs and circled around, he spit out from his mouth with the foreign matter washed out of his lungs through his throat. Just when Harry thought he was about to drown in the potions classroom, Slughorn finally ended the treatment. After spitting out the potion in his lungs, Harry lay powerlessly on the desk, panting heavily. "Did you swallow the potion?" Slughorn asked with concern. Harry shook his head feebly. Just now, he accidentally sneezed when he was putting the spores of the big puff mushroom into the crucible for dry frying, and then accidentally inhaled a lot of spores blown up by the sneeze. "Alice," said Slughorn, after a sigh, "I thought you knew you needed to use the bubble charm when dealing with puff mushroom spores." Slughorn continued, "When the spores of the puff mushroom fall on the ground and encounter water, they will immediately and slowly secrete a toxin, which will poison the surrounding plants in a small area, which makes its surroundings no other plants compete with themselves for resources to grow. And after these spores are eaten by animals or inhaled into their lungs, the toxins they secrete will make the animals run wild until they die from exhaustion, and then new puff mushrooms will grow on the dead animals using the dead bodies as nutrients. If you encounter yin corpses and zombies, these spores will immediately start to grow rapidly after falling on the rotten wood, and the mycelium it produces can destroy the body structure of yin corpses and zombies within a few minutes." After Slughorn explained the characteristics of the large puff spores, Harry thought of his dead body covered with mushrooms, and then couldn't help shivering. After a while Slughorn saw Harry recovering and smelled, "Then you know why the spores were sautéed beforehand." Harry thought for a while, and asked in a very uncertain tone, "Is it because we want to inactivate the spores so that the toxins can be easily extracted? Put the living spores into the water and let it secrete the toxin by itself. Wouldn't it be more convenient and quicker to get the toxin?" Slughorn asked back. Seeing Harry, who kept answering wrong answers, Slughorn gave up and gave him this question as extra homework. "Why is this so? Your talent in potions class is not like your mother, but like a good friend of hers." Slughorn looked at Harry strangely and said, "If it is not impossible, I thought you were her child. You know, your mother has shown a talent for potions since the 1st grade. And that friend of your mother's did badly in potions at the beginning, causing the cauldron to explode almost once a month. In the end, she managed to get a good in the OWLS exam. But since the 6th grade, she has been like you, she suddenly became enlightened in potions, and although her performance was not comprehensive at the beginning, when she graduated from 7th grade, her NEWT's exam results were excellent. So, keep working hard." Standing on tiptoe, Slughorn patted Harry on the shoulder sitting on the table, then turned and went about his business. Harry also got down from the table, put a bubblehead charm on himself, and continued to fight the spores of the big puff mushroom. For the next half an hour, The only sounds in the potions classroom were the flames under the cauldron and the two people performing various operations. Harry, did you get extra help somewhere, and it was limited to textbooks? Slughorn asked suddenly. What? Harry, who has told a secret in his heart, trembled and almost dropped the crucible containing the processed spores on the ground. If that's the case, you don't have to worry, said Slughorn, reassuring Harry a little. Judging from Harry's reaction, Slughorn knew that the guess that popped up in his mind was very likely to be correct. But this kind of thing happened a few times in his teaching career, so he didn't think it was strange. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.